Party's on Franco versus Blancas. Step forward, please.
24-year-old medical technician John Franco wants former fiancée and mother of his 2 children, 20-year-old Yvette Blancas, to return his engagement ring.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 97 on the calendar in the matter of Franco versus Blancas. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
You want your engagement ring back?
Yes.
How long have you been with this lady?
About 3 years.
And how many children do you have together?
2.
So the only thing you don't have is a marriage license.
Yes.
You had a family. Thought you'd be engaged
First.
first, have kids, and then get married. How sweet. How old are you?
24.
And how old are you?
20.
20. So how old were you when you had your first baby with him?
I was 18.
What I find interesting is that you met, you were both kids, you became pregnant, and then you got engaged. It's not usually the way it works.
No, it's not.
Then you had a baby. Then you broke up. He had already given you a ring. And you gave the ring back to him. Right?
Yes.
And then you got back together again?
Yes, we did.
Tell me about that.
Well, when we broke up, we were still seeing each other. I got pregnant again, so we thought we would try to work it out.
Don't you know how to see to it that that doesn't happen?
We should have, but, I mean, I loved him a lot. And so we
Loving somebody doesn't mean that you have to have his baby.
No.
2 of them. What would your family have to say about all this?
They're upset. They don't like it. But they still love me after
Of course they
everything
still love you. So now you have 2 children. You know what my problem is, Mr. Franco? I usually believe that an engagement ring represents a promise that you're going to marry. And if for any reason you don't follow through with that contract to marry, then the ring should be returned. But you, Mr. Franco, you created a family, the 2 of you. Do you understand?
Yes.
My problem with you is I don't think you were very honest with me in your answer.
What answer?
The answer that you wrote to his complaint. Do you know what I mean?
No, I don't.
Well, I'll tell you. He says that after you had, for the second time, decided to separate, he looked over one day and didn't find the ring in the box where you usually put it. So he asked you about it. And what did she tell you?
She took it to her mother for safekeeping, and then that she'd give it back, but her mom was busy and she wasn't going to jump for me, that when she got around to it, she'd bring it back. And then it was her mom's boyfriend had it in his safe, and his mother had a stroke, and he couldn't get to it. He went to go visit. He didn't, I confronted him about it, and he told me he didn't want to have anything to do with the situation. And it wasn't in the safe, so it was just lie after lie. And then when I asked her again, you know, want to tell me the story, she just said she didn't want to deal with the situation. That's why she told me what she told me.
He can say that, but that's not what happened.
Where's the ring?
I don't know. I thought he had it. I mean, we got in an argument. He told me it was over. We argued. We wrestled a little. I threw it at him. I thought he had it until he told me he didn't. Until I got served that he's taking me to court on something I don't have. And then after I told him that, he would still bug me about money. I mean, till this day, he asks me for money every day.
For what?
To help him. He threw me out of my own house with my 2 children, but he's asking me for money.
What do you mean he threw you out of your house with your 2 children?
when he decided he didn't want to, you know, he's dating someone else, he left me. He told me to leave. He said I could stay there till I got my income tax money, and then I would have to leave.
Whose house were you living in?
It's my house. I purchased the
It's
house
your
at the
house.
same time I gave her the ring.
So you purchased a house, and you gave her the ring.
Yeah.
And the house is in your name. Is that right?
Yes.
And when you decided to separate, you told her that she could stay for a while, but then she would have to leave.
Yes. We have a contract that we work. We have the kids equal amount of time. I didn't throw her and the kids out. Just I told her she needed to find a place. She was getting $4,500 back, and she's been with her mom ever since. And I mean, about the wrestling around and her throwing the ring, that's never happened. And here's the ring that she put in there that I assumed was the one that I got her until I took a closer look. And she got that in TJ from a panhandler or whatever.
How old are your children?
2 and 5 months.
Do you work, sir?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a phlebotomist, EMT.
And you work 5 days a week?
40 hours.
Who takes care of the children?
I do. I work 6 to 6. I get home, I sleep 2 hours. She drops them off at 9 in the morning. And then at 5:30 when I have to go back, I take them to the sitter, and then she picks them up when
Is
she
that
gets
right?
out of work.
He won't help. I don't like the idea that they're there, that he only has 2 hours of sleep, but he doesn't want to help me with babysitter or anything with daycare. And I can't afford it by myself.
Well, that's all right. I mean, if he wants to be a full-time father when he has the children, I think that's terrific.
Not really, though, because when they're there, he falls asleep. Something can happen to them.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
We had the child before we got married.
No, you had 2 children. The first time is a mistake. Second time is stupid.
And later today,
According to these papers, she had you arrested for domestic violence.
Correct.
And when she had you arrested, another warrant fell on you that had nothing to do with her.
Correct.
The old warrants weren't her fault, sir, were they?
No.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. John Franco wants his engagement ring back from the mother of his 2 children, Yvette Blancas.
Mr. Franco, I really don't know where this ring is, but I'm here to tell you that you created a family. And wherever the ring is, you don't get reimbursed for it. This is not an engagement. This is almost a broken marriage. Why you 2 young people decided to have 2 children together before you decided to make a commitment that you were going to spend your lives together is something that is always beyond my imagination. You want to tell me? Maybe you know.
Well, because I was ready. I was ready to start a family. Regardless of my age, I thought this was the person for me.
So why didn't you get married?
Why didn't we? That's what we were going to do.
No, no, no. Before you had children.
Oh, before we had children.
Yes. Before.
Didn't work out that way.
What do you mean it didn't work out that way?
We had the child before we got married.
No, you had 2 children before you
Oh,
planned
yeah,
to get
2
married.
children. But I'm talking about the first time.
The first time is a mistake. Second time is stupid.
Yeah, but that was my choice.
That was your choice?
Yes.
Good. Wherever the ring is, I hope it's happy. That's all.
As I excuse, you may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
I hope the ring's happy too. She's the mother of my children. I always have to deal with her, so there's nothing else I can do.
I can't give him something I don't have. I mean, I just hope we can deal calmly, because it hasn't happened like that.
And now the next case.
Bodies on Miramontes versus Sadier. Step forward, please.
19-year-old nanny Michelle Miramontes is suing her ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old mechanic Human Sadier, for loans and assault.
You were dating for about 1.5 years,
Correct.
and you took some money from her, correct?
I didn't take it, but
What do you mean you
borrow
didn't?
it.
Shh, shh, shh. You took some money from her.
no, I never took money from her. She bought me gifts while we were
I didn't
together.
say whether they were a loan or gift, sir. I said you took money from her. Did you
That-
take $3,000 from her?
Yes, to pay for my transmission, but She gave the money for my car to get fixed.
Okay. Okay. So how did it come about that she gave you this $3,000?
My transmission in my car went out, so I had my car in a transmission shop where she was working at the time.
Slowly.
She was working at the shop at the time.
Yes.
So I took my car there to get diagnosed, to have fixed. They saw that the transmission had completely blown out, so they had to rebuild the transmission. They rebuilt it for me at the time.
No. You take your car in, and they say to you, your transmission blew out.
Correct.
We are diagnosing you with a dead transmission.
Correct.
And you said to the diagnostician what?
I asked them how much would it cost to repair the vehicle.
And the diagnostician said what?
They started with the estimate, which was at first, I believe, $455 to pull the transmission out.
The whole thing, please, don't give me
The total was $2178.29. I have a copy if you'd like to see it.
Okay, so they repaired it.
Correct.
And then
when
it came
was
time
ready-
to go and pick it up.
When it came time to go and pick it up, Michelle had asked me, do you have enough money to pay for it? I said, no, I don't. She said, okay, I'll get the money for you, and then we'll take care of it after.
I'll get the money for you and we'll take care of it after.
Paying it off after.
Fine.
Okay.
So what did you say?
I said, okay, fine.
Good. So how much did she give
gave
you
me
at that
$3,000.
time?
I asked her for $3,000, and she okayed to get me $3,000.
Okay. And we'll take care of it later. Right?
Yes, correct.
Did you take care of it?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
Some matters came up between me and her as far as, it's a different story, but it came up, and we were splitting up at the time, and she wanted me to pay her back. I had to pay the other bills off because they were more important than paying her off and what I went through. So I canceled that, and I put that aside. And then she said, okay, if you're not going to pay me, I'll take you to court for it.
Well, here we go. So from the way we started out this case, sir, you said you didn't take any money from her. Not only did you take the money from her, but you acknowledged that it was a debt. You acknowledged that you told her you would pay her back, and then you just decided to blow it off and pay other bills, right?
Correct. I had to pay off a bail, if that's what you did.
Which bail?
My mother bailed me out, so I had to take care of that. So I paid my mother off.
Just,
And that was because of her I had to go to jail for.
well, according to these papers, she had you arrested for domestic violence.
Correct.
And when she had you arrested for domestic violence, another warrant fell on you that had been an outstanding warrant that had nothing to do with her,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So that's her fault.
No, well, domestic violence. She came to my house and she wouldn't leave.
No. But you were held because of the old warrants.
Yes. And
Well, just a
because of
second.
that, too.
The old warrants weren't her fault, sir, were they?
No.
All right, so we got $3,000. Now, according to her papers, you paid her back $300.
Yes, I did.
So that brings it down to $2,700. You see, you don't even have to open your mouth. Look, you're winning, right? Isn't that great?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
After the $600, then you lent him $3,000. And then after the $3,000, you lent him another $600. You're not taking any serious medication, are you?
Closed captioning sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. 19-year-old nanny Michelle Miramontes is suing her ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old mechanic Human Sadie, for loans and assault.
Now, there was another piece of money that he borrowed from you. According to you, at two different times, you lent him $600
Correct.
each time. Tell me about it.
Well, before his transmission shot out, he had a warrant because he was driving with a suspended license. I get a phone call in the middle of the night, pick him up. His car's been impounded. We took the car out 6 days later, and I let him borrow $600.
Is that what it was to get the car out?
It was $220 for the towing. I gave him $600. He paid 2 tickets that he had. He had to clear his tickets first. He had to buy abstracts. He had to pay the DMV for giving him his license back.
So you gave him $600?
Yes.
Does that have a familiar ring to it?
Yes, it is.
Did you pay her back?
No.
Why not?
Like I said, I was paying my mother off $7,500 now.
And after the $600, then you lent him $3,000, right?
Right.
This. And then after the $3,000, you lent him another $600.
On September 20th,
No, is that the right? Then you lent him another $600.
Correct.
You're not taking any serious medication, are you?
Not right now.
Huh?
No. Not after what he put me through, I was.
What he put you through? Madam, how old are you?
19.
Where'd you get all this money from?
I worked 2 jobs. I borrowed the $3,000 from my uncle.
Who do you live with?
My mom.
What 2 jobs do you work?
I'm a nanny,
Yes.
and I work in an office doing administrating.
Don't you know a loser when you see it?
Now I can tell.
Well, you're only 19, so I really can't fault you that much because 19, you're still a baby.
Right.
But this should give you some clue. A man should never have to ask you for money.
Especially one that thinks he's wealthy.
Just a second.
And a
Should
restaurant
never
money.
have to ask you for money. And if he asks you once, and you're 18, 19 years old, how old are you?
23.
If you're 18, 19 years old and 23 has to ask you for money, right? And then he's got to ask you for money again. And then he's got to ask you for money again. Do you understand?
Yes.
And what was the last $600 you gave him?
Well, we were doing couple things and going out, and we went to car shows, and he wanted to upgrade his rims.
Upgrade his rims.
He had 16s, and he wanted bigger rims. So I had them...
Bigger rims for this car with the blown transmission.
Well, the transmission was done.
Did she give you rim money?
She paid for him, yes, she did.
I have to ask you this question, sir. What did you buy her?
I never bought her anything.
Your Honor,
What?
I have a lot more. Well, there's more to this than this. There was a baby.
Doesn't this tell you, is this enough? A baby with him?
Yeah.
Do you have a child with him?
No.
Okay, so then I don't have to hear about the baby. You don't have any children.
No, I don't have any.
So why don't you keep that to yourself, madam? Right?
Well, no, I mean, I was going to have my child when I was 5 months. His family, his sister, and his mother are harassing me. I have to go through all this surgery. As of right now, I'm still having surgery. I go through a lot of pain and suffering because of them. This is my medical chart in 2 months. I have
Listen
60
to me.
pages.
That comes under the category of you being stupid. Do you understand? You have to take certain responsibilities for your own life. Do you understand that?
Yes, I understand that.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Even though you're only 19, you have to start taking a certain amount of responsibility for your own bad judgment.
So it was my bad judgment that he decided to hit me, and I had to take
No,
time.
hitting you was something completely different, madam.
I never laid a finger on her, man.
Hitting you is something completely different. If he hit you, and if you have medical bills as a result of his hitting you, I'm not interested in what you decided to do with your pregnancy as a result of the stress that his family put you through. I read that here. That's your problem. But if he assaulted you and you had medical bills as a result of his assaulting you, that I'll see. Do you have medical bills as a result of his assaulting you?
No, I decided not to go.
Fine. I'm awarding you $3,900, and I assume that the next time you pick a boyfriend, you'll pick somebody who isn't going to try to take you financially for every last penny that you have, and use a little better judgment with regard to the character of the people that you hang around with. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I'm just glad this case is over with and she's out of my life.
Well, I'm just happy it's completely over with, and I got my money back from someone who was as ignorant as he was. Well, there's a lot of people like him out there, so for all the young ladies, just to be careful. Some people think they're very wealthy and from wealthy families, and they're not.
on Durand versus Blick. Step forward.
35-year-old Mark Durand says he loaned thousands to his former girlfriend, payroll supervisor Melissa Blick, 32, while she was married to another man. Melissa says the money was a gift.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 470 on the calendar in the matter of Durand versus Blick. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Durand, according to your complaint, you became involved with the defendant while she was married and made a series of loans to her. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Several $1,000s, $3,000.
Almost 3,000, yes.
She says that you didn't make any loans. Whatever you gave her were gifts.
Gifts.
How did you meet each other?
Through a friend of mine's wedding. We both were involved in a wedding, and the lady that my buddy was marrying set us up to where we both walked down the aisle together.
And how long did this relationship last that you
About
developed?
About 2.5 years.
It's a long time. You were living with your husband at the time?
Yes, and it was 2 years, ma'am.
Now tell me about these loans that you made to her during that time.
She'd asked for money. She said she wanted to get a job, and she needed money to get clothes and different things, and I gave her the money. At different times, she'd call and say, I need this much. I wrote a check for this amount, and I can't cover it. We put it in the bank on several different occasions. On receipts, I have all the bank receipts.
Well, just because you gave her money, Mr. Durand, doesn't mean that they were loans. What makes you think that they were loans, sir?
Well, the money I put in her account, I told her that had to be paid back. I gave her money also out of my pocket on different occasions.
I understand the dynamics of this situation from the papers that I have, which is you decided to stay with your husband and you called this relationship off.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was after that that you pursued these alleged loans.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Durand, were they loans?
Yes, at that time, yes, they were.
Which ones were loans, sir?
The ones I have the receipts from my bank account to her bank account on, yes, are loans.
And how much is that?
$2,920. The money that came straight out of my pocket, which is about $1,000, just giving her 100 here, 100 there, I told her don't worry about paying back.
Now, Mrs. Blick, $2,920 is what he said he has in bank receipts. Do you remember getting that kind of money from him?
Yes and no, ma'am.
Well, yes.
Okay, yes. But let me elaborate on that. I would pick up things, say groceries or whatever the case may be. I don't recall exactly everything I picked up, and he would say, if he didn't have the cash on hand, he would deposit it into my account.
That's a lot of groceries for $3,000.
No, it wasn't just groceries. It was several different things.
Like what?
Clothing.
For whom?
For himself.
Let me see the bank receipts, please. During this 2-year period, you were living with your husband or you were living with him?
No, I lived with my husband.
So what did groceries have to do with him?
No, if I was somewhere, he would ask me to pick up things for him. I would pick up things for him. If I was at the mall, he would ask me to pick up things. I would pick up things. He borrowed money from me and also deposited money into my account that he owed me.
Did you ever owe her any money?
No, ma'am.
For deposit to the account of Rob Blick.
That's her husband. I wrote
It's
it.
a joint account.
There's 2 receipts there on the same day. I think one's for 50 and one's for 110. One to her account and one to her husband's account. To where I wrote a check, I can't cover it.
Just a second. That's sort of interesting. Didn't your husband ask where this money was coming from if this was a joint account?
Ma'am, it's a joint account, okay, yes. But if he owed me the money, I would give him the money. This account basically...
You're not answering my question, Mrs. Blick.
No, he didn't ask because this account basically I take care of. He doesn't.
I'm looking at deposits to your account, $600.
Okay.
$320. Where's odd numbers? $110.
Because this would be money also that he owed me, that he had borrowed from me.
Well, explain that to me, Mrs. Blick. Explain to me how he borrowed money from you.
He would say that he didn't have any money. Could he please borrow some money? And I said yes, and I let him borrow money.
Does that sound familiar, sir?
No, ma'am. I don't see how I could borrow money from her if she wasn't working at the time, trying to get on her feet. How can I borrow money from her?
If you would look at those statements, ma'am, I did work.
I didn't ask you whether you worked or not. It just doesn't, something doesn't smell right when you say that you lent him money.
Well, I did.
How much?
I don't know the total amount that I loaned him, but I never, ever asked him to borrow money. He didn't give me money that I asked to borrow, ever.
$2,900.
Yes.
He deposited into your account. And you're telling me that none of this was a loan?
No, ma'am, it was not.
Well, tell me about it. You tell me about it. And we're not talking groceries here. We're not talking about a box of cornflakes.
Well, I mean,
we're talking about, over a period of 2 years, almost $3,000, and that's not including what he says is cash out of pocket.
Okay, I will tell you about it. He would give me money. If I was going out, he would say, here, take some money, have some fun with your friends. He would ask me to borrow money because he does not work in the winter. He's off, several months. I'm not sure exactly how many months, and he did not work. There was times where he did not collect his unemployment for a certain amount of time. I don't know the balance there, how long it takes him to get his unemployment. He would ask for money from me also then. I would give him money because he had no money, no income whatsoever.
All these, Mr. Duran, receipts are for 1996. So that's during a one-year period.
Yes, ma'am.
You say you had this affair over a 2-year period.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, when did you start giving him money?
Starting into the second year. The first year, we were just seeing each other, and then she said she wasn't happy with her husband. She loved him more as a brother than a husband. She wanted out. She wasn't happy, but she was staying because of her son, her one son.
Mm-hmm.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I'm not insecure, with our marriage. Obviously she was, but we're working through that.
And later today,
7 years, I'm his best friend. Like, I don't know him
You
enough.
were my best friend.
Well, Megan, you know what? If you wouldn't have slept around on him, maybe I still would be.
around.
Oh, yeah, right.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mark Duran wants his former girlfriend, Melissa Blick, to pay back the money he loaned her when she was married to another man. Melissa says the money Mark gave her was a gift.
It was the wrong thing for her to get involved in this situation. It was also the wrong thing for you to
Yes,
get
ma'am,
involved
I
in
know.
this situation, sir. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your papers, you have a tape that memorializes her statement that these were
Yes, ma'am, I do.
loans.
Yes.
When did you make that tape?
The last time I talked to her on the phone, which was, I think 4 months ago.
You want to tell me what it says on that tape?
I asked her when she's going to pay me. She says whenever. I told her to put it in my account. She said, to start with, she said no. At the end of the conversation, she agreed to put the money in my account. I gave her my account number, which is on the tape also. And she told me quit harassing her, which harassing her once every 3 months to call her, find out where my money is, I don't consider harassing. I told her if the money's not in my account, when I check my bank statements, that I want an answer why it's not there. And I won't call and harass her. And she agreed to that.
What did she say?
She said that she would start putting the money in my account. I told her I wanted $100, $50 to $100 a week. And she said, I can't promise you nothing because I have my truck payment or car payment out of one of her checks. And I said, well, if the money's not there, I want you to call me and let me know why it's not there so I don't have to call you and leave a message on your answer machine.
Does that sound familiar to you, Miss Blick?
The conversation we had somewhat like that, yes. He did call my house.
Where you said that you would put money in his account.
Yes, but I didn't owe him the money. I was just trying to get this man to leave me alone. He has harassed me. He has harassed my son. He has threatened to do things to me. He has told me I've had to watch my back. It was so bad.
Are you telling me that if I were to play this tape, it would say that you would start to put the money that you owed him into his account every week?
Yes.
That's it. I don't have to listen to the tape. Listen, Mr. Duran, she acknowledged that this was a loan. She acknowledged it on this tape. I don't have to listen to the tape because she's already told me that she told you that she would put the money in your account. I don't believe you, madam, when you say you told him that because he was harassing you. He wants his money. The two of you were involved in in an affair that probably shouldn't have taken place. However, he gave you money. Some were gifts. $50 out of his pocket, go have a good time, is not a loan. That's a gift. But clearly, you had an understanding that some of it was supposed to be returned. Perhaps if you had, in fact, left your husband and gone to live with him and had a life together, he would have forgiven those loans. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Exactly what was said.
Well, Mr. Durand, you know the old song, Never Get Involved with a Married Man?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Goes the other way around, too, sir. All right. I'm satisfied that at least the monies that were placed in the defendant's bank account were placed there as a loan, and I am awarding you $2,920. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The woman never needed money. If she needed money, she'd come to me. I never asked questions what she did with the money. As far as what happened between them two, I don't really know. I'm not insecure, you know, with our marriage. Obviously she was, but we're working through that.
I apologize for what went on between me and his wife, and I hope that if it does work out between them.
And now the next case.
Parties on Blas versus Blas. Step forward, please.
21-year-old medical receptionist Megan Blas claims her ex-husband, 22-year-old administrative assistant Philip Blas, owes her for a repossessed car and credit card bills. He's countersuing her for physical and mental abuse.
You folks were married for a short time and divorced.
Yes.
Yes.
And you are suing your former husband because you allege that he left you with a large debt.
Yes.
And you feel as if he should be responsible for half of the debt.
That's right.
You have a countersuit, sir.
Yes.
Some of that's nonsense. But basically, you are saying that, A, most of the stuff that's on the credit card bills and the other bills that she's complaining about were in her possession.
Mm-hmm.
B, you paid for a lot of the things, most of the things when you were married.
Yes.
And C, you want to be compensated for all the mental anguish that you went through because of her.
Yes.
Mental anguish is a subjective thing, sir. You're no longer subject to mental anguish because now you're divorced. Got it?
Got it.
Good. All right, so, Ms. Blas, let's talk about these things that you say your former husband is responsible for, at least in part. Let's start with the biggie on your list. Something about American General. Now,
Yes.
what's that for?
Well, we refinanced the car that we had because the finance company that we were with charged too much interest, so we went to something that was cheaper. And we also took an amount that I had already borrowed from them and an amount he had already borrowed and just all collaborated it into one payment.
For the car?
Yes.
What kind of car was this?
A Honda Civic CRX.
What year?
87.
What happened to the car?
It's since been repossessed and sold.
At the time that you separated, which was in what year?
97.
Where was the car?
It was in my possession.
So you kept the car?
Yes, I did.
And it was repossessed because you stopped making payments?
We both stopped making payments, yes.
Well, did you expect him to make payments on a car that you were driving?
No, I didn't.
So the car was repossessed because you stopped making payments?
Right.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
She had an affair on him. That's
Sit
why-
down. Talking money, they're talking sex.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Megan Blas wants her ex-husband, Philip Blas, to pay for a repossessed car and some credit card bills. He wants her to pay for physical and mental abuse.
What was your arrangement with her with the car, sir?
The agreement on the car was if she were to take back the car, she would make the payments and she'd make the insurance on it. And
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So then why are you suing him?
He co-signed on the loan, and so he is equally responsible, as from what I understand.
Hold it. Let me understand this. You separated. You said to him, I want the car.
Right.
And if you give me the car, I'll assume the payments.
I never said I really would. I mean...
You just told me you said you would. You just told me you said you would.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So he turned the car over to you.
Right. But then since the loan is in both of our names...
I understand that. So you take care of it. You told him, give me the car and I'll take over the payments. right?
Yes.
And you didn't.
Right.
So, take care of it. You made an arrangement with him. Give me the car and I will be responsible for it, is what you're saying. Then you weren't responsible for it. You weren't responsible, period. They repossessed the car. You want him to pay for half of whatever the deficit was.
Right.
Ridiculous. Next. That's the biggie. Let's go to the Sears bill. What did you buy at Sears?
Numerous household items.
Like what?
Television.
Where's the television?
In my house.
What else?
CD player that was in the car.
CD player that was in the car?
Yes.
That was in your possession?
Right.
That got repossessed? What else?
Clothing for the both of us.
Clothing. Well, he seems to say that he bought a few items of clothing, right?
Yes.
What clothing did he put on this Sears card?
Work clothing.
How much was it worth?
I don't have an exact amount.
Well, then I can't give you an exact order. What else was on the Sears card? Anything else?
No.
No. That takes care of the Sears card. Gottschalk's. What kind of a store is that?
It's a department store.
And whose items were on that?
Both of ours.
What?
Clothing, mostly.
Does that sound familiar to you?
Maybe a pair of pants and a work shirt. That was about it. And I wasn't even allowed to charge on the Gottschalk's bill, so I had no access to it at all.
Whose name was that card in?
Mine, but he also had a card.
Did you have a card?
No, ma'am.
You have a bill from Gottschalk's?
I do not have a bill because I was not able to get those.
You get a bill every month.
I do, but they don't break it down.
We're talking about $338 Gottschalk's bill, right?
Yes.
Half of that is $169.
Correct.
But you can't establish to me what part of that $338 were his clothes. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Let's get to your countersuit, because that might take care of the whole ball of wax. You say that you borrowed $700 to buy this car. Is that right?
No, that was $700. There was a car payment that had to be made, rent, utilities, and those kind of things.
When was that?
It was over a period of time, a period of about 3 or 4 months.
Is that right before you separated?
Maybe 4 months before we separated.
Oh, please. Mr. Blass, forget about it, sir. Forget about that part of your countersuit.
Okay.
Because you can't substantiate. This is kind of nonsense. Now, tell me about this mental anguish and be very, very brief.
There was physical abuse. I ended up having to defend myself a couple of times.
When you say defend yourself, you mean she hit you and you hit her?
She hit me, and I stopped her from hitting me.
Stopped her. What'd you stop her with?
My hands.
Okay. Is that why I assume you separated?
No, there's some other details in there.
I don't want to know the other details.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You had mental anguish when you were living with your former wife?
Yes.
You're not living with her anymore?
No.
Ma'am,
What?
may I say that I had mental anguish also?
Good.
I mean, it could
Everybody
go
has
both
mental
ways.
anguish. Let me tell you something,
No matter
folks.
what relationship.
Let me tell you something. If you didn't have mental anguish, the two of you might still be together.
Correct.
You had mental anguish. You were smart enough to put a period and move on with your lives.
Right.
Why you're still suing each other, I have no idea.
Your Honor, may I say something?
Why?
Who
are you?
I'm his best friend. She had an affair on him. That's
Sit
why-
down. One thing. Talking money, they're talking sex. Look, Miss Blass, you didn't like living with him, you filed for divorce, you got a divorce, he defaulted, right?
Correct.
Put a period, move on with your life, sir.
Yes.
But for the fact that she sued you, you would never be here, is that correct?
Yes.
Good. So put a period, move on. Lawsuit, countersuit, dismissed. Have a nice day.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Back to what you ran.
And on the next Judge Judy.
All I have to say is what comes around goes around, and she'll get hers in the end, and I feel very sorry for her.
There was a lot of physical abuse going on, and there was
was
stuff
mutual.
there was stuff that
It was
I
mutual.
I've known him for 7 years. He's never once laid a hand on another woman, Megan.
On those, maybe.
On those 7 years, I'm his best friend. Like, I don't know him
You
enough.
were my best friend.
Well, Megan, you know what? If you wouldn't have slept around on him, maybe I still would be. Oh, yeah, right.
Oh. Forget it.
Party's on. Plunkett versus Erickson. Step down, please.
Wedding coordinator Mary Elizabeth Plunkett claims writer Mary Erickson Downs didn't pay for her flowers. Mary Downs says she didn't get the flowers she ordered, ruining her wedding day.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Sir. Thank you. Yes, case number 27 on the calendar in the matter of Plunkett versus Erickson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
Miss Erickson, you retained the plaintiff to prepare the flowers and arrange the flowers for your wedding.
Right.
So when she came to you, Miss Plunkett, did you discuss the flowers and did you discuss how much it would be?
Yes.
Did you enter into a contract?
We verbally discussed things, and she gave me a deposit.
Now, the original agreement that you had with the defendant was for how much?
Between $1,000 to $1,500.
Well, whenever you deal with a vendor and you say between $1,000 and $1,500, it's been my experience that it's never $1,000, it's always $1,500. So, the maximum that she was prepared to spend was $1,500, correct?
Correct.
When did you first tell her you were going over budget?
The month before the wedding.
Tell me about the conversation.
I proposed at that time that we have 4-foot magnolia topiaries
I'm
in
not
the dining
interested in
room.
the 4-foot magnolia. You told her it was going to be how much more money?
She
spent $300 on silk ribbon.
Just a second. Did you tell her how much more it was going to cost her?
I told her that we were going over budget.
But you didn't tell her how much?
I presented her with what I had spent and asked her for an additional amount of monies, which she gave me.
Okay, and the maximum budget that she gave you was $1,500. And when you say you went over budget, you originally agreed to between $1,000 and $1,500.
With a stipulation that I have $400 to $500
She never
flexibility.
You have
She never-
4 to
creative problem.
Just a second. With a stipulation that you had $400 or $500.
Creative budget margins.
That was never told to me until
Well, between $1,000 and $1,500 is $500 flexibility.
That's half the budget.
So we come to the wedding, and how much have you paid so far?
I paid her up to that point $1,300 that she had to work with.
So you expected to pay her no more than how much?
$200 plus. I wouldn't mind spending a couple hundred more because I had asked for an apple tree and that kind of thing. So I expected maybe I'd be paying $400 more.
So you expected a bill for, let's say, $1,800 to $2,000.
Correct. $1,800 was kind of the maximum I expected.
So say you expected to pay $1,800 because you asked for an apple tree, an absolute necessity at any wedding. Are you the husband? Get to the wedding, she delivers the flowers, and what happened?
An hour and a half before my wedding, she comes into my room while I'm getting my makeup on and my hair done and gives me the bouquet, which was not at all what I ordered. I wanted something inexpensive, and we had discussed greens and just a few flowers, and it was like this huge, beautiful bouquet of 24 roses, and I was just shocked. And then she said, I need to talk to you privately. I've gone way over budget, and I'm really upset about this, and I don't know how to deal with it.
How much did you actually go over budget? What kind of bill did you present to her on the day of her wedding?
On the day of her wedding, I gave her a bill for a balance due of $1,422. And with that, I told her that I had given her a $500 gratuity, a generosity of my time.
An hour and a half before my wedding, she gives me a bill that totals $2,722, which the maximum I had told her that week was...
So, $2,722, listen to me, you had already given her $1,300, and you expected a bill for somewhere around $1,800.
At the most.
So this was about almost $1,000 over that.
Yeah, $1,222.
Oh, okay.
I was in shock. And plus, I was already nervous just being a bride.
I can work with anyone's budget. I notified her of that fact. That wasn't the problem. It was that last week when we had all these phone conversations back and forth, 3 or 4 a day, of additional amendments that she wanted, specific things that she had added that I was willing to comply with and
like
create.
What? Like what additional things?
A long list.
It wasn't that long.
There,
it was a candle. It was something for our wedding candle, an apple tree.
When you called her, did you ask her how much those things would be?
Well, she told me how much things were, approximately how much things were going to cost. But the thing is, I got to the wedding day, and Well, for one thing, the first thing I was shocked by was my bouquet way over budget, $175.
How'd you know it was $175?
Because she gave me this. She gave me this receipt.
There were also many other things that we'd never asked for.
Step up here.
There were many items we never asked for. There was a bouquet at the floor at the wine and fruit and cheese table outside. There was a bouquet at the autograph book, the signature book. There were, you know, there's a number of things marked on here that we never requested or expected to pay for.
I was shocked.
How do you know that they were never requested?
Well, I mean, my wife and I were having a
discussed-
conversation on this, and I have to tell you that on the day of our wedding, I had no knowledge that this was happening, that she'd been presented with this outrageous bill an hour and a half before the wedding. But at the reception afterwards, she kept coming up to me and saying, I'm so upset that the florist wants a check right now, and it's $1,700. And I was thinking, okay, it's $1,700 total. What I had no idea is that the next morning when I looked in our hotel room and I look at this bill for $2,700, and I realized it's nearly double what we had agreed to pay for, I was
honeymoon
outraged.
money, basically.
I mean, I feel like she was basically coerced into writing this check.
But you did write her a check, and then you stopped payment on it. Why don't you tell me about that?
Well, it was because I was a wreck being a bride that day. Starting, first of all, when I saw her at my ceremony, I just wanted to retch after she had presented me with this bill. So the whole ceremony, every time I saw her in her little purple outfit, I was wrecked. Then, before the first course was even served, she started wanting the check. And so throughout the reception, she kept coming up at every opportunity that I was free and asking me for the check. And I asked her at one point, can I mail
Mary,
this to
that's
you?
not true.
Yes, you did. Every time I had a free moment or wasn't dancing or talking to somebody, she was up coming to ask me. And I was telling my friends, what do I do about this florist? And several people said, I'll take care of her for you. And every time I saw her, I just didn't know what to do. I was so wrecked. Then the weird thing was, she came up to me during the reception and said, a friend of yours said she would like to take home a centerpiece. Now, I don't have a problem if you want to take home 3 or 4, but I'm intending to take the rest of those home. And I just thought I was buying these flowers.
Did you take any of the flowers home?
I transported all of the flowers home after a conversation with Mary saying she hadn't prepared any means for which to take care of them.
Just a second. I never heard of a florist taking home flowers.
She had ordered 18 arrangements. Up to the last minute, there was 18 arrangements made. I had to be prepared to do 18 tables. At that point, she called me the night before. I checked with the hotel. There were 2 changes that time which she okayed me to do, and that one, number 1 was...
I'm not interested in that. Would you kindly tell me what you were doing taking home her flowers?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
No. I don't believe you. I absolutely don't believe you. I can't tell you, unfortunately, how many weddings I've done, but never have I experienced the florist taking home the flowers.
And later today...
How much is a new motorcycle?
The older one I bought for $4 grand, and the new one I have I bought for $9.
You'd have to pay me to get on a motorcycle.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Wedding coordinator Mary Plunkett wants Mary Downs to pay for her wedding flowers. Mary Downs says she got the order wrong.
Miss Plunkett, to be honest with you, it sounds to me as if, because I read your complaint as well, that you made a little bit of a pest at yourself at their wedding.
I mean, this isn't true. I went to her twice during the reception.
Twice is too much.
Well,
Twice is too much.
I told her I objected to giving her the flowers without payment.
Well, right now she'd been presented with a bill, and she didn't had any idea that she was going to get this kind of bill from you. She had no idea.
We had
I had no idea.
Each time we talked to her that week, I said, we are way over budget.
No, you
she knew this. She knew this.
Miss Plunkett, being way over budget could be $100, could be $200, could be $300. You're a business person. And a business person is supposed to say, we are now over budget by $250. I need your approval for that.
I did that, Your Honor, and she sent me $500 additional dollars.
Yes.
And then $500 more.
So how much did she pay you all together?
$1,800.
Right. And then, right before the wedding, you called her and say, now we are way, way over budget. First we were way over budget, then we're way, way over budget. Did you tell her how much?
I told her, because the things that she added last minute were so, like 2 days ahead of time, Your Honor.
No way. You know what she did? The
No,
night before...
and I'm outraged. quite frankly, Miss Plunkett, that you took these flowers home.
I asked Mary the night before if I was to deal with this.
No,
and she said, please
the night
go ahead.
before, I didn't even talk to you the night before, Elizabeth.
You called me and gave me your room number.
Just a second. Hey, Miss Plunkett, do you expect me to believe that the night before you spoke to this lady and said to her, I am going to take the flowers home and you can have them whenever you want them?
Absolutely.
You said that the night before?
I told her.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I absolutely don't believe you. I mean, I can't tell you, unfortunately, how many weddings I've done, but never have I experienced the florist taking home the flowers.
No, I asked her if she wanted me to handle with the transportation of them. She informed me that she was
Listen,
going
you
away.
got paid $1,800. And as far as I'm concerned, that's all you're going to get. Now, you have a counterclaim, and your counterclaim is really in the form of aggravation. If you have aggravation, then part of it is your fault. Before you enter into a contract with somebody to perform a service, you get it in writing exactly what it is. And when you have these conversations over the phone, I want a tree, I want something for my candle, and without saying exactly how much will that be, you run this risk of having a problem afterwards, and unfortunately, you run the risk of having additional aggravation on a very important day. That doesn't mean you're compensated for it. That means you're supposed to get smarter.
But am I supposed to expect somebody coming in an hour before my wedding with a $1,200 over? I mean, just that insensitivity?
Didn't you understand what I just said? Am I speaking English? When you enter into a contract for services, you're supposed to get it in writing.
Right.
All right?
Your Honor,
you were paid $1,800. That's all you're going to get.
Mr. Downs wrote me a note, and he says, you are going to eat it.
Miss Plunkett,
That's not what I
you
said.
are a poor businesswoman.
I know,
And in
Your
addition
Honor.
to being a poor businesswoman, I do not buy your story about helping her out by taking the flowers home and being able...
Please ask Michael what he was there to help her. He helped me install them.
Just a second. I don't care whether he helped you told them and I have never...
I don't need them. I had no use for them.
What word don't you understand, madam?
You don't believe me.
I certainly don't. That's all. This case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, you knew my budget was $1,500,
Mary?
and you were supposed to inform me any time going on.
I did. And your friends say when you go to the store for light bulbs, you come out with a $300 bill. You spend a lot.
That's not true. It's absolutely not
Well, Patrick doesn't know that
You
about
did the wedding you wanted.
I'm only married to her.
And now the next case.
Parties on Burroughs versus Trogdon. Step forward, please.
25-year-old truck driver Terry Burroughs says his brother, 20-year-old salesman Brian Trogdon, owes him for an unpaid phone bill and a ruined motorcycle.
This is your brother.
Yes.
You did two things. The first one was really stupid. You gave him a telephone to use, a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Not smart. You said he ran up a bill of over $600.
Yes.
Bill was in your name,
Yes.
but he had the phone.
Yes.
And then you said he ruined your motorcycle that you let him use.
Yes.
Let's start with the motorcycle. Why was he using your motorcycle?
Because he had came back from Illinois. His motorcycle that he had in Illinois had been wrecked, and the insurance paid to pay off the loan. He was having troubles out there. I loaned him $200 to come back to San Diego to try and start his life over again. And I had purchased a new motorcycle, and I still had my second motorcycle. I let him use the second motorcycle, and he understand. I go, Brian, it needs some repairs on it first, and then once you get it, it's being used as collateral on the loan. I need to keep the full coverage on the insurance, and anything breaks, you fix it. And he goes, okay. And he did fix a couple things, got a new tire for it, got a new ignition for it, and then apparently he went up to LA when he was using the phone, and going up there, him and his friend were talking. I heard his friend talking, saying that he was racing up there doing like 90 miles an hour the whole time up there. And it's an older bike, and apparently on his way back, the engine seized. And I let him use the motorcycle just because he had nothing to use. His credit
So how
was
much did it
horrible.
cost you to have the motorcycle fixed?
The motorcycle isn't fixed yet. I do not have the money to repair it.
You have an estimate?
Yes, I do. It's a total of $1,500.93. $1,593.06.
How much is a new motorcycle?
It depends. The older one I bought for $4 grand, and the new one I have I bought for $9 grand.
You'd have to pay me to get on a motorcycle. What are you laughing about?
No, absolutely.
Just
nothing.
the very thought of it makes you chuckle.
Me too.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Just a second. What motorcycle were you using to pick up your
I had
girlfriend?
gotten a new one.
You bought a new one?
No, my ex-girlfriend had got it for me.
Why would she get you a motorcycle?
She knew I needed transportation at the time.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Terry Burrows claims his brother, Brian Trogdon, owes him for a phone bill and a ruined motorcycle.
Okay, so now I have the estimated repairs on. You don't, sir, look at me. You don't deny that the engine on the motorcycle seized when you were driving it, is that correct?
No, it seized while I was riding on it, but,
Okay.
and then the first thing that I checked when it seized was I checked the oil, because that's the first thing, you know, and there was plenty of oil in it, so I had it taken to a motorcycle shop, and when the guy was loading it up, I asked him, I said, what can cause it? He said anything. He
Anything?
said, you know.
It's probably true.
And yeah, I admit, when I was going up to LA, me and my friend Micah would get a burst of speed, take off for a little bit, but it's not like I did 90 miles an hour the whole way there.
Doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
You had borrowed his motorcycle with the understanding you would take care of it while you were using it, right? Right?
Yeah.
It seized when you were using it. So you have to take care of it. Doesn't that sound right to you?
Yeah.
Your Honor?
I mean, just a second, you're winning. Why don't you be quiet? All right. Well, let's get to the phone bill. You have some sort of a defense to this phone bill. You used this phone. You ran up a bill of over $600, right? You don't deny that those were your calls. And your whole defense is that he told you that you could pay $35 a month. Is that your defense? Am I reading that right?
No, no, no. He'd called and worked out a thing with my fiance, you know, that we would pay, and then we gave him $35 the first time.
Just a second. Why didn't you pay the bill as it came due each month?
Well, because I had lost my job, because I had gotten in some trouble, so I lost my job. And
Just
that
a
was my
minute.
fault.
So if you lost your job, how many months did you have the phone when you lost your job?
I'd had it maybe a month.
Are you telling me, sir, that you used a cell phone for $600 worth in 1 month? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, it was long.
No wonder you
distance
lost your
call
job. No wonder you lost your job.
I took responsibility and I told him I'd pay him. Well, we gave him $35.
On almost a $700 bill, you gave him $35?
Because he had told me that the phone had been cut off and his minimum payment was $50 a month. Well, I couldn't afford to give him all $50 at once, so we gave him $35 to start with, and then about a week later, like it was just after I wrecked my bike and stuff like that, well, he called my house and he asked to borrow my motorcycle helmet, and I said, well, you know, I got to pick up Valerie later tonight, and I can't let you use it. Dad's here. Dad's helmet's here. Why don't you use his? Well, he's like, well, why
Just
don't
a
you use
second.
that?
What motorcycle were you using to pick up your
I had
girlfriend?
gotten a new one.
You bought a new one?
No, I didn't get it. My ex-girlfriend had got it for me.
Your ex-girlfriend, not this lady?
No.
Your ex-girl. Why would she get you a motorcycle?
She knew I needed transportation at the time.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY. On the internet, judgejudy.com.
Listen. Who is this?
This is my wife, Charlene.
He needs a keeper. Bad news on this side. You were a nice guy. You helped him out. Don't do it again.
Never.
Do you understand?
Absolutely.
He's a user. Your defense to this whole action is your brother came and took your girlfriend's helmet. Because he took your girlfriend's helmet worth $600 and he let his wife wear it, she stretched it out. Is that your defense? Huh? Is that your defense? Get him a copy of my book. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,193. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I don't think he'll learn from it. He hasn't learned in the 20 years of his life about mistakes and how to correct them.
I don't know what it is. I mean, all the stuff I've done, my parents still talk to me and all kinds of stuff. My sisters still talk to me. Terry's just got to be the only person not to talk to me, and he's my only brother, so it makes me feel bad.
Party's on Thomas versus Thomas. Step forward, please.
21-year-old Danielle Thomas is suing her husband, Mario Thomas, for pain and suffering during their 3-year marriage. Danielle claims Mario left her to raise their 3 children on her own, but Mario says he's not the father of Danielle's kids and owes her nothing.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please, all rise. Yeah, this is case number 148 on the calendar, the matter of Thomas versus Thomas. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
You folks are married and are in the process of divorcing. There are a couple of issues that you raised, Mrs. Thomas. First, you raised the issue of some credit card bills that you say your husband owes you.
Yes, ma'am.
And second, you say that you are suing him for pain and suffering during the course of your marriage. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
A couple of things I don't understand. How long have you been married?
3 years.
And you have 2 children?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are expecting a third?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas says that none of those children are his.
Correct, Your Honor.
And how old is the oldest child?
She'll be 3 in November.
So that you're married 3 years, you have 2.5 children.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are his.
Mm-hmm.
How can you claim that he harassed you?
Because, Your Honor, when we got married, he knew full well that I was pregnant. He said he would accept the responsibilities of being a father to my child.
He said that in his answer.
And when we got married, shortly after we got married, things started changing. He changed and started acting, differently than what he had said he was going to do. And he left and said he had wanted a divorce. And that put stress on my body and on me, and going through a pregnancy, as you know, is very stressful anyway. And when he left, that put stress on me. I went into premature labor with my daughter. She was born at 36 weeks.
Okay, but she's fine and healthy now, is that right?
She's fine and healthy.
Okay.
Now, when I was pregnant with my second child, he came back and said he wanted to work things out, and we got back together.
Did you tell him that the second child wasn't his?
Yes, ma'am. He knew that it was my son was not his.
The second child?
Yes.
Well, how did that come about? How long were you separated?
We were separated for about 7 or 8 months. And then...
and how pregnant were you when he decided that he wanted to come back?
When he decided to come back, I was like 6.5, maybe 7 months pregnant.
So right away you went out and found somebody else?
No, it wasn't.
Well,
that,
I mean, I'm not really good at math. Bert can attest to that.
Yeah.
But if you were 6.5 months pregnant and you were separated for 7 months, it didn't take you long to find a substitute for him.
No, ma'am, it didn't.
So then what happened?
And then when he decided he wanted to come back, he wanted to get back together with me, I said yes, and we got back together, and everything was fine.
What happened to the father of this child?
I left. Me and him had broken up.
And then what happened?
During my pregnancy, during the end of my pregnancy with Mario, when I was pregnant with him, he said that he would take care of the child. That's why my son is named after him. He's a junior. He signed my son's birth certificate and everything. And
sounds like a nice guy.
Yes, he seemed to be a nice guy, Your Honor. But yeah. Things started changing again.
Like what?
He started he started going over to his sister's house. I didn't, have a problem with him visiting his sister and everything, but he would be gone 4 and 5 days at a time and wouldn't even call to say, how you doing or anything. He would just be gone.
So that's the emotional stress that you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am. And then, my son has a problem. He has asthma. He had a problem with his lungs when he was born by me going into labor at 34 weeks when he left me the second time.
So then he left you the second time. And how long were you separated the second time?
We were separated for about 9 months, nine and a half months.
And how pregnant are you now?
I'm 8 months pregnant.
Is that the stress that you're suing for, his leaving you?
Yes, ma'am. When he left me in a financial bind as well as an emotional bind also, because we were together and we had bills, for different bills, like furniture bills and stuff like that. When he left, I had to pay those.
Who has the furniture?
I do.
Now, what are these credit card bills that you're talking
Some
about?
credit cards that I had gotten, and I had charged some things for him while we were together. Different.
Like what?
Some stuff for his. He has a keyboard. Different things for his keyboard and clothing or something.
How much did you charge for him?
$7.
I want to see proof of that.
I have a credit card statement here. It has the balance out that I have been paying on from Sears. That I have here. It has the balance. I just wanted him to pay half of it.
Well, I don't.
You know.
He's not responsible for the whole balance.
I know half of the balance, Your Honor.
Well, what items are on there?
This credit card statement here does not have the items that are on it. It just has the complete balance that I owe on the bill.
Well, I can't. That's not proof, madam, of anything. I don't know when you made those purchases. I don't know what those purchases were. You say that they were solely for him.
Yes, most of the purchases were.
First you said some, then you said most.
Majority of the purchases were for him.
Well, then you should have brought me the bill that says this is what the items were. You must have that bill.
Yes, I did, but I didn't bring that on. Van Bar was the one that had the total amount due.
Did you ever charge anything on her Sears card, sir?
I didn't know she had one, ma'am.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He plays with women's minds and their emotions and everything because he thinks he's a pretty boy, that's all.
And later today,
You put any kind of schmutz you want in the washer and dryer and then expect her to take it back.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Danielle Thomas is suing her husband Mario for pain and suffering because he left her to raise their 3 kids on her own. Mario says he doesn't believe the children are his and feels he owes her nothing.
Now, I want you to be honest with me. Did you ever charge anything on her Sears card, sir?
No, ma'am, not at all.
Okay. Do you pay any support for her?
No, ma'am.
What about child support? Are you seeking child support from him?
No, ma'am, I am not. Not at this time.
At any time?
No, ma'am.
Not so sure about that. How do you support yourself?
I have, I'm on aid from my state. It's called AFDC for my children.
Mm-hmm. You living with the father of this baby that you're going to have?
No, ma'am, I have my own apartment.
Who is the father of this baby that you're going to have?
Brian.
What does he do for a living?
He works at Sharp, and he works at Federal Express.
And who's the father of your second child?
Moses.
Does he pay any support for the child?
It will be starting in 3 months.
But so far he hasn't paid
No,
any
ma'am.
support. And the father of your first child?
Raymond, he...
Does he pay support for the child?
No, not through the court system. No, he doesn't. But he does give her money, and he buys her things that she needs.
You have anything you want to tell me, sir?
Yes. A lot of things she said about me changing, that's not true, Your Honor. In the beginning, she told me she was raped. And I had no problem with that. I mean, I could accept it, and because I felt she was being honest with me. And about 2.5 months later, or after everything was rolling all good, it just kept coming back to me because of the way she said it. That it happened in her house and everybody was asleep. And I had already talked to her brother. And her brother had told me that the guy Raymond, she already liked him and was flirting around with him anyway.
So the person that you told you raped her was somebody that you now believe she just went to bed with?
Yes, ma'am, because she admitted to it. When I
When
finally...
you confronted her with it?
Yes, ma'am.
So that was just a story that she had been raped?
Yes, ma'am.
So that made you mad?
Hurt and mad at the same time. And what made it so bad is when I asked her, she laughed like it was a joke. And I didn't really know how to say, well, this is over or anything like that. So I took some time and went to my sister's house. And she already didn't like me going to my sister's house anyway.
Okay, but you went to your sister's house really to escape a little bit and to think?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. How old are you, sir?
24.
What kind of work do you do?
I work at Baskin-Robbins and I'm a part-time model.
How old are you?
21.
All right, Miss Thomas. You get lecture number 307. Officer Byrd is familiar with this lecture. It's unfortunately one that I have given before. You're 21 years old, going to have 3 children by 3 different fathers, none of whom support their children. Those children are being supported by me and the rest of the taxpayers in this country. You've acted wholly irresponsibly in your life with regard to that, wholly irresponsibly to your children. Not easy growing up as one of 3 children, and each one has a different father. Father's Day in your house, you're going to need a revolving door to set up the visitation. That's immature, irresponsible, and very stupid. Now, I don't know where you get the best word that I can think of is chutzpah, which means nerve, to come into court and sue him for mental and emotional stress. I haven't heard, madam, that he's caused you any mental or emotional stress. As a matter of fact, I think based upon what you've told me and what he's told me, he exercised a great deal of restraint by just walking out of the house and going to his sister's house. As far as these credit card bills that you're talking about, you have produced no proof that is satisfactory to me that he owes you a penny. Nothing. Truth of the matter is, the only thing that's irritating is since you support yourself by welfare and you pay your Sears bill by welfare, I'm really paying the Sears bill. So that's irritating. That's irritating number 3. Your lawsuit is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Alphabetical to your right, please.
He would constantly keep calling and lying to me, saying he wanted to get back with me and everything. And, you know, it's just a bunch of mess. That's all it really was.
And now the next case.
Parties on Williams versus Brazil. Step forward, please.
24-year-old Adrienne Williams says when she was sharing a storage unit with her friend Melvin Brazil, he took her washer and dryer. Melvin says he was only borrowing the appliances and fully planned on returning them.
I love the way your mind works.
Thank you.
I'm not so sure you're right, but I love the way your mind works. You 2 people rented a storage space together. You had just been friends, is that right?
Yes.
You all put your stuff in the storage space. You, sir, sort of borrowed some of her stuff.
A couple items.
You want to tell me what you borrowed?
It was a washer and dryer.
And what did you do with the washer and dryer?
Well, I used it for a few months.
Did you ask her permission?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
Because I knew I wasn't going to be using it that long. But when I went to take it back, it wouldn't fit in the storage because there was stuff stacked up so high. So I had it took to a friend of mine's house that she knew. And it sat there for a while.
To make a long story short, you go there and find no washer dryer.
Right.
And you were closing out the storage space.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I packed up everything in the storage and took it back to Sacramento with me.
Including what?
Including all of his furniture.
Yes!
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
$5,000, so it must be a lot of stuff.
No,
right?
it's just expensive stuff.
You mean small and expensive, like me?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Melvin Brazil says he borrowed a brand new washer and dryer from Adrienne Williams without telling her. Now, Adrienne doesn't want them back. She wants a new washer and dryer.
You don't think she was wrong, do you?
Yes, I do.
Why?
Because we already had arrangements made. She was supposed to contact me that morning, and I was going to get off, and I was going to help her move. I was going to tell her then where her washer and dryer was.
Oh, okay.
You mean you hadn't told her where her washer and dryer?
No, because I knew that she was going to get mad, and I was trying to save her that problem from knowing she was up there and I was down here.
You don't think she had a right to be mad?
This is the way I saw it. She has my pager number, my mother's number, everything. Instead of her just making a rash judgment, taking everything and just taking it back to Sacramento, all she had to do was call me and tell me.
Well, all you had to do was call her.
No, I was at work. I couldn't call her.
Did you let me finish? Don't interrupt me. It's not nice to interrupt a judge. You also, sir, could have called her and said, could I borrow your washer and dryer?
Right, you're right.
Why do you think she should call you and say, what did you do with my washer and dryer when you didn't have the decency to call her and say, can I borrow your washer and dryer?
Is that a question? You telling me it don't sound like a question.
Anyway, Miss Williams, you don't want that washer and dryer back.
Well, apparently he sold it, so I couldn't have it back if I wanted it back.
Did you sell it?
The washer and dryer sat at my mother's house for 4 months. She could have had that washer and dryer anytime she wanted it.
She said, I don't want it anymore, just like I would say I didn't want it anymore because you don't know what's been washed in that washer and dryer. She had a washer and dryer that she used for her lingerie, for her underwear, for her sheets and her towels. She knew what went in that washer and dryer. You put any kind of schmutz you want in the washer and dryer and then expect her to take it back after you've stored it, used it. So you sold it. Now you got to pay for it. How old was the washer and dryer?
I bought it in August, and I put it in storage in March, so less than a year old.
And how much did you pay for it?
Approximately $860. I have the receipt here.
Could you give me the exact amount, please?
$823.31.
Now, the rest of what you're suing him for is because he didn't pay for the storage fees, his half of the storage fees. How much were the storage fees a month?
The storage fees were $48 a month.
And how many times did you make the payments of $24 a month, sir?
I paid the last $80 for her to get the stuff out of there.
How many months was your stuff in storage, sir?
How many months was my stuff in storage? 4 months.
How many months was his stuff in storage?
His stuff was in storage the majority of the time I had the storage.
No.
We agreed to pay half of the storage cost, period. We agreed to get a storage big enough to hold both of our things. Why would I get a storage big enough to hold 2 apartments worth of things if I was only going to put 1 apartment
How
worth of
many
things
months storage did you pay for?
I had it for 16 months.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I say so. My stuff was only in there for about 4 months.
What difference does it make if you agreed to rent a storage space with her?
But my
and she
stuff
took,
wasn't
I'm
in there at the
speaking. And she took a storage space big enough to accommodate your stuff, which you say is worth $5,000, so it must be a lot of stuff.
No,
right?
it's just expensive stuff.
You mean small and expensive, like me?
Yeah.
16 months, and you paid once?
My stuff wasn't in there 16 months.
Doesn't make any difference.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
All right, listen to me. You owe her $1183.31 for the storage and her washer and dryer. Okay. Your account is suing up $5,000 for the small yet expensive merchandise that you had stored in the storage. You want to tell me what that is?
It's a leather sectional that I had custom made. There's a marble coffee table and
Where are
an
the
end
bills?
table.
Where are your bills?
Rebuilt.
Your bills that you had custom made. If you had a leather sofa custom made, you had marble table custom made, I assume that in addition to standing there with your story, you have some proof to show me.
I didn't bring any.
Why not?
Because I didn't think it was going to be relevant. This stuff is, I've had it for years. I don't have any receipts of it.
Well, if you've had it for
cash.
years, then it's not worth what you paid for it. It
I
has a
say 4 years I had it. Her stuff was used when I had it. Her washer and dryer wasn't brand new.
You stole her washer and dryer.
I borrowed her washer and dryer.
No, you stole it.
I didn't steal it.
You stole
it. was there. She had access to it.
You stole it. You stole her washer and dryer without her permission and never returned it to her.
I tried to return it to her. She wouldn't come get it. It was at my mom's house.
What'd you do with his stuff?
It's still in my garage in the same spot it's been in the day I brought it home.
You have no problem with him getting a large truck and coming to pick up his stuff?
I do. I'd rather deliver it to him. I don't want him at my house.
Oh, that's fine. You sure you want to do that?
Yes.
That was the agreement
Very
that was from the
good.
gate.
Very good. She's going to return your stuff to you, sir.
Your Honor,
And you,
can I say
sir, are going to pay her $1,183.31. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in that amount. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
It should have been in the storage where I left it.
Man, all you had to do was call me.
All you had to do was leave it where it was.
It wouldn't go back in there. That's what I'm telling you.
It went in there when I put it
door.
in there, and it should have been in there when I went to go
Well,
get it
that's
out.
what you said. I told you I was wrong for that.
Okay.
Didn't I? But
Now you understand how wrong. I don't have furniture to give people to borrow. I work for a living just like everybody else. I use the things that I buy for me.
on Hagopian versus Neesmith. Step forward, please.
23-year-old student Allison Hagopian says her former boyfriend, 22-year-old salesman Eric Neesmith, used their credit card without paying his share. Eric says he doesn't owe Allison any money. She took his truck.
Order. All rise. Let's have quiet in here, please. Your Honor, this is case number 134 on the calendar in the matter of Hagopian versus Neesmith. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, ma'am, have a seat.
Ms. Hagopian, according to these papers, you were in a long-term relationship with the defendant. You claimed during that time that he spent a lot of your money.
A lot. While we were dating, we decided to open up a joint credit card with the intention of Eric consolidating bills onto this lower rate interest credit card. In addition, he had free right to use the credit card, and every month when the bill came, he was to pay the bill. That agreement worked out fine. I never once used the credit card, and that worked out fine for about 2 years until we broke up and he stopped paying.
Now, one of the things you say in your complaint, when you start, you say, I have very little evidence, but I have right on my side. Evidence is what a court's all about.
Right.
So when you say you have very little evidence, let me see what very little evidence you have.
Okay, well, the reason I don't have evidence is because he charged everything, and he's the type of guy who crumples up the receipts and throws them away. So I obviously don't have very many receipts, but what I do have is our very first statement saying that a $1,500 transfer was taken place. I have one receipt, and towards the middle, there's more balance transfers.
More balance transfers?
He was still using his credit cards and our joint card, so he again transferred those small credit cards onto this. So I have his old statement stating how much, you know, say it was like $400 and $400 shows up that it was transferred. So I have that right there.
But do you have how much he paid?
I don't understand.
According to you, he made payments every month.
Correct. It shows on the statements how much he paid every month.
Well, do you have a total?
No, I don't.
Well, then how am I supposed to figure that out?
Well, okay, the balance as of today is $4,000. It's $3,999.98.
I paid her a sum of money every month to pay for whatever was in that house. She wanted so much money a month from me, 5, 6, whatever it was she asked for. I just gave it to her in cash. Every paycheck, just gave it to her in cash. That's why I have...
Just a sec. Sir, you did, for the 2 years that you were together, make payments by check on this credit card, did you not?
Very few checks. I don't think she...
Just a minute. Not very few. Did you, while you were together, it's clear that you transferred some of your old credit cards to this new credit card, correct? Which had a lower interest rate.
Correct.
It's also clear that you did, in fact, make payments on that credit card by check.
Yes, I did.
Good. And you made that up until the time you separated.
No, I made payments after that also.
How much after that?
I would drop $300, $400, $500 cash in an envelope, run it by her house, and put it in her mailbox.
You live in a private house?
Yes.
And you have an outdoor mailbox?
No. It's deposited directly into our house.
So what you're telling me you did, sir, is for several months after you separated, in order to deal with your outstanding bill,
yes,
you, in addition to the other monies that you paid by check, you dropped cash off in her house.
Yes, I did.
And you say?
Never.
And let me tell you why, sir. I don't believe that. You want to know why? Because it's common sense. Let me tell you why it's common sense. Here you are together, building a future, planning a life together, and you write out checks to the credit card company so that you have a receipt for it. Now, this is when you are together and in love, sharing a home together. So what you want me to believe, sir, is after you separated, and I assume not a happy separation based upon these papers.
Oh, no.
Right? After you separated, you trusted her enough to deposit cash in an envelope in her house. That's what you want me to believe?
Yes.
Good. That's what he wants me to believe.
You don't know. She's got a witness that. That will attest that I gave him $500 cash.
Is that you?
It's me.
Step up. Your name?
Nick.
What?
Nick.
Nick.
Yep.
You're Nick on the street. Here you have a
Nick
last
Hagopian.
name.
I'm her sister.
What?
I'm her brother.
Your last name?
Hagopian.
Oh, okay. Mr. Hagopian. He says that you're a witness to the fact that he gave her $500 in cash.
He gave me $500 and I gave it to her. That was on one occasion. That was 2 weeks late.
For what? For credit card or
for a truck?
We're not at the truck yet. I haven't even touched the truck yet. We're talking about credit card. We're going to get to the truck in a minute. That was for the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Nick. Let me see the last statement that you have from your credit card. Thank you. And these are all his charges?
Correct.
Everything here?
Everything.
Okay. You have a bicycle?
Yes, I do.
It's expensive.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
And I see that you made a payment of $825 on this account.
I made a few large payments.
Right, all by check. But then you stopped.
Yes.
And there was still an outstanding balance when you stopped,
Yes,
sir.
there was.
So why don't you pay it?
Because she owes me money.
Now we're going to get to the truck. You purchased a truck. The loan was in her name. Truck was in her name.
That's correct.
But you had it.
I had the truck.
And when you left, you took the truck.
Yes, I did.
And while you were together, you made the payments on the truck.
That is correct.
And then, according to you, about a month or two after you separated, he was late in payments.
Correct.
So the first thing that happened was Nick over here went and repossessed the truck.
Correct.
Then what happened?
He called me up while on vacation. I said, give it back, you know, especially if he gives you money. He gave it back when I got back from vacation.
Gave it back and he gave him $500.
Correct.
Is that when he gave him the $500?
Yes,
There
that's
you go.
it.
I knew this would all come together like a neat puzzle.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Why did you just get your own loan?
I cannot get a loan.
Well, what had you done in your past, sir, which made it so difficult for you to get credit?
And later today,
So you want her to repossess the
I
car?
said, if she wants the car, she can have it. It's not worth what I owe on
Isn't
it.
he a prince?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Allison Hagopian broke up with Eric Neesmith after 5 years. Allison wants Eric to pay his share of credit card bills. Eric wants Allison to give him back the truck.
Then what happened?
When I came back from vacation, I said, listen, I don't want to have to be your personal banker. I don't want to be responsible for the truck, you know. What happens
Get
if you're
your
in
own
an
loan.
accident? Exactly.
Did she tell you to get your second? Did she tell you to get your own loan?
She sure did. That's when I put the for sale sign in my truck.
Why did you just get your own loan?
I could not get a loan.
Why?
I don't think my credit was good enough.
Well, what had you done in your past, sir, which made it so difficult for you to get credit? Why don't you tell me about that?
Sure, I had a repossession when I was 18 years old.
So this wasn't the first time you bought something and couldn't pay for it?
Well, I returned it because I couldn't afford it.
You didn't return it. If somebody repossesses it, that means they repossessed. They came and
Well,
they got
was-
it from your house.
Yeah, it's a voluntary repossession. I turned it into the car lot.
Mhm. How much did they give you back for the car that you purchased when you were 18 that you couldn't pay for? How much did they give you back?
Probably around $4,000.
They gave you back?
Well, they didn't give it back to me. They sold it at an auction for around $4,000. I paid them the difference in cash.
You paid them the difference. So what I said, listen to me, Mr. Neesmith, I speak English. When I said to you, how much did they give you back for the year's worth of payments that you made? The answer is goose egg, right?
That's correct.
Now, your answer here is she owes you a lot of money for the truck because she sold the truck and you want to be reimbursed for all the payments that you made for the year that you had the truck. That's your defense.
I saw it as the loan was over. She took the truck. I paid for it for a year, $3,600 worth.
That's what you paid. It's almost like a rental. You paid $3,600 to rent a car for a year or for more than a year. How long did you have it?
I think he had it for 13 months.
13 months. Less than $300 a month. It's a bargain. You rented it. Anyway, so your counterclaim is dismissed. With regard to your complaint, I actually believe that despite the fact that you don't have all the evidence that I would like, he did in fact incur bills on your credit card, and I don't believe that he paid them. Even he doesn't suggest that he paid them all. He suggests that he gave you a couple of payments towards them. So I'm awarding you $4,000 on your claim. Be smart. Until you got a ring on your finger and a certificate on your wall, don't open up joint accounts with anybody.
Correct.
Smart?
Smart.
Good. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Back door to your right, please.
She owed me money for the truck. I upgraded the truck. She sold it. She didn't even give me anything. I don't think it was very fair.
He owed me the money. I got the money. That's all there is to it.
And now the next case.
Parties on Jones versus Taylor. Step forward, please.
24-year-old Amanda Jones says her ex-fiancé, 25-year-old Eric Taylor, stopped making payments on a car he bought from her. Eric is countersuing Amanda for an engagement ring.
All right, let me review the chronology of this case. You two were dating back in 1994. Is that
Yes.
right? And you had an old car that you were replacing.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And you purchased that car
Right.
from her for $3,500. And within a few days of purchasing this car, you broke up.
Yes.
And you continued to pay her for the car.
Right.
Until sometime in 1996.
Right.
When you gave the car to
My mother.
who agreed to make the payments.
Correct. Correct.
And she did until August of 1997.
Correct.
When she gave the car back to you.
Right.
And at that point, there was still $1,200 owing on the car.
Correct.
Then in September, you had a conversation with him.
Correct.
Tell me about that conversation.
He said that he was going to begin taking the payments over again. I told him that there was $1,200 left over. He said that he had just found a job or just got laid off or something. He was having some problems with work and some family problems. I told him if he could pay it off by close to the end of the year, I'd drop it to $700. He said, "That's great," thanked me.
So
and
you knocked off $500.
Mm-hmm.
That was nice of you.
I thought so.
That was nice of her. Right?
Right.
So why didn't you pay her?
The car's, it's not worth that anymore. I've tried to sell the car just to get, because I had the title to the car. The title was signed over to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried to sell it to get the money for it, and I can't even get the money for it.
What does that have to do with her? Mr. Taylor, what does that have to do with her? You bought a car in 1994. You agreed to a purchase price of $3,500.
Right. She called me, and she said, when she was telling me about the money and stuff, and I don't really even want the car. She can have the car back.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Why should you sue for $750 if you had pooled your money? At least half of that was her money.
Because there's some morals here. I mean, when you get
Let me tell you
engaged.
what morals are. Morals are when you come into court and you tell the truth.
Closed captioning sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. 24-year-old Amanda Jones says her ex-fiancé, 25-year-old Eric Taylor, stopped making payments on a car he bought from her. Eric is countersuing Amanda for an engagement ring.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
You buy a car in 1994 from General Motors.
Right.
And you make a payment plan with them.
Right.
And in 1998,
Right.
you still have time to go because you took out a 6-year loan.
Okay.
Towards the end of the loan,
Right.
you still have $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 left on the loan.
Mm-hmm.
So you go into General Motors and you say to them, listen, I don't want this car anymore. If I had to continue to pay off everything else that I own on this car, that's more than the car is worth now.
Right.
Right?
Right.
What do you think General Motors would say to you?
What?
They would send you for a psychiatric examination.
Probably.
They would send you. I mean, are you following what you're saying?
Yes.
You bought the car, you agreed on a price, you agreed on a payment plan. Now at the end of the day, the car isn't worth what you thought. There are a couple 100,000 miles on the car now, right?
Right.
When did she become a partner in your misfortune?
Well, I guess the way I was looking at it was if you finance a car and you don't make the payments on it, they come and they repossess it.
So you want her to repossess the car?
I said, if she wants the car, she can have it. It's not worth what I owe on it.
Here, Prince. Break.
But there is a second part to this.
Were you served with this counterclaim?
Yes, recently, yeah.
And your counterclaim says you bought her an engagement ring.
Correct.
When?
Actually, about 2 weeks before me and her split up.
That's actually not true, Your Honor. It was in July of '94, and we split up in January of '95, 7 months.
Okay.
Okay. So what happened when you split up, sir?
We split up, and I was going to take the car, and I had asked for the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went into her work 2 weeks later, and I noticed that she had several dozen roses sitting on her desk. And I asked her again. I said, obviously she had met somebody. Could I please have the ring? She then told me no, and she kind of smirked and said, no, I'm going to use the ring because I'm going to buy his ring with it.
Did he ask for the ring back in 1994?
Yes, he did.
So why didn't you give it back to him?
Because he did not purchase the ring, pay for the ring. He borrowed the money from my sister.
Which I paid back.
When I found out that he borrowed the money from my sister, I had just received an insurance settlement. I felt bad having my sister owed this money, so I paid my sister the check. I wrote the check for my sister and gave her the money for the ring. So the ring was mine. I paid for it. He made 2 payments on it.
To your sister?
Yes.
Did you borrow the money from her sister?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And how much was this ring?
$775.
How many payments did you make to her sister?
2.
In what amount?
I believe they were $100 amounts.
$80 amounts.
You believe they were $100
amounts?
amounts? Mm-hmm. So let's say I believe you that you paid $200 towards this $750 ring.
Right.
You say you're countersuing her for $750.
The payments that I made to her, okay, they were payments that I had made. Me and Amanda, our money was our money, and she decided that she wanted to pay us back.
What do you mean our money? Her money was your money, and your money was your money?
We were living together at the time. We had a bank account. You know, we were...
You just told me you gave $200 to her sister.
Right.
She says she paid the rest to her sister.
Amanda didn't know I got the ring for her, the money from her sister, okay?
Then she found out and she felt badly, so she says she paid her sister. You say she paid it out of a joint bank account. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that our money was our money. Yes, it was paid that way, yes.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Even if I believe you, Mr. Taylor.
Okay.
Why should you sue for $750 if you had pooled your money? At least half of that was her money.
Because there's some morals here. I mean, when you get
engaged... Let me tell you what morals are. Morals are when you come into court and you tell the truth. First of all, you don't file a counterclaim for $750 when you didn't pay $750. If I believed you, it would have been half of $750.
I see.
Well, you didn't sue for half of $750. Second of all, this happened 4 years ago.
Right.
So I'm dismissing your counterclaim. It's nonsense. And you owe her this money for the car.
Okay.
And she's being a very nice person by saying to you, you owed me $1,200, I'll reduce it to $700. She's not a repo man. That's what you want her to be, right? You come repossess the car, sell it for what you can.
Right.
Oh, you have a wonderful character. Balance owing on the car is now $650?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $650. That's
Thank
all.
you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
When you finance a vehicle and you don't make the payments on it, the person comes and they take the vehicle.
He, in fact, told me you can take me to court, so I did.
Versus Bull. Step forward, please.
Actor Peter Farkas claims 31-year-old makeup artist Dwayne Bull changed lanes and smashed into his car on Sunset Boulevard and still hasn't paid for the damage.
Order, all rise. Your Honor, this is number 90 on the calendar in the matter of Farkas versus Bull. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Mr. Farkas, if you tell me the story in as interesting a manner as you wrote it in your papers, it's going to be a fun morning. So, relax and tell me your story.
Well, I was traveling westbound on Sunset Boulevard heading towards Highland. I get to the corner of Highland with a plan to make a right turn. I'm in the far right lane. The light changes. I move forward a foot or a yard. All of a sudden, bam! Mr. Bull over here smashes me from the middle lane of Sunset because he's decided to make a right turn onto Highland. So we pull into a strip center right nearby, and I'm reaching for my documents. I'm just trying to compose myself, and he saunters over to my window, and in his way, "Oh, I'm so sorry I did this. This is terrible. I had my mind on other things, and I'm getting a divorce." I'm saying, "Please, I don't want to know. Just let's go with the license and registration." So I look at his license.
I divorce? I just got married, so I can't be getting a divorce.
I'm going to get to you in a second.
I read his license. Dwayne Xavier Bull, license expires in '95. Do you have insurance? No, this I don't have. I look at his license plates, New Mexico license plates. So what are we going to do? He says, "I just want to pay for it. Why don't you just take it over to a." So I ask him, what beseeched you? What possessed you to make this turn?
Your Honor,
he says, "I saw my boyfriend on Highland Avenue with another man, and I got so upset." I said, "I'm not interested. What are you going to do?" He says, "I'm going to pay." He says, "I'm going to pay for it." I tell him, "I'm going to go right now to get an estimate, and I'm going to bring it to you, and you'll pay for it, and we'll forget the whole thing." Now, the man, can I show this to the judge, please?
Yeah.
The day, exactly at the incident, I wouldn't leave the scene without him signing this. It clearly says, "Dwayne Xavier Bull agrees to pay me. He caused the accident. Fine, so he does it." So what happens next? I call him and call him and call him. No answer. He gives me his pager. His salon is on Sunset. Following morning, I walk into his place of business. I walk in, and this young lady takes over. Divorce, marriage, the French woman, I don't know, but she starts, "Excuse me, I will handle this. Dwayne has no money." Well, that's good. That's good. What are we going to do? "But we want to fix your car, so we want you to take your car to Vahe."
To who?
Vahe.
Vahe.
So Vahe, the Armenian auto body repair. It's right. There's more documents to establish it. I pick up the telephone. I say, "I'm not leaving here till I speak to Vahe," so it's perfectly clear that Vahe fixes my car. He pays for it, and I go home. I call up Vahe, and I say, "Vahe, do we understand each other? Dwayne Xavier Bull, I'm going to bring my car to Jenemsveld in the valley somewhere, and you should only know where. I don't know where it is. You have to take a cow to get there. So, Vahe, do we understand each other? You're going to fix the car, and Dwayne Xavier Bull is going to pay for it." He says, "No problem. We know Dwayne. You bring your car. You'll be very happy." Following morning, my wife and kid in tow with the Camry behind us. We're trucking out to no man's land. Oh, excuse me. Here's the document that says that he agrees to pay Varaz Auto Repair when I bring the car to him.
Okay.
Dwayne, can you give me a chance?
Mr. Bull, I'm going to let you tell the defendant's side of the story as soon as he's finished, okay? Go ahead.
So I get to Varaz. Vahe's a very nice guy. He says, "Leave the car, no problem." On my way home, I'm telling my wife, there's no shot in the world that this problem is over. Sure enough, like clockwork, Vahe's boss calls me. "Bob the Armenian." "Bob, we have a problem." "Of course we have a problem. Dwayne Bull didn't come to pay for the car." "Right." He says, "We agreed that he would just pay for the parts, and we'll give him time on the labor." The man doesn't come. So I start calling him. Vahe is calling him. Bob is calling him. The man doesn't return calls. Finally, he threatens me on the telephone. I called West Hollywood Police. He says to me, if you call me and harass me anymore, I'll have people beat you up. I call West Hollywood Police, but they're busy with seatbelts. They can't handle this.
How long are you in California, sir?
Not long.
How long were you in California at the time of this accident?
Unfortunately, only about 60 or 90 days, and although it's not relevant to the case, 45 days before this incident, I move into a house on April 4th, and the following day I wake up in the morning and the house is on fire. I'm carrying my baby out in the fire at 2 o'clock in the morning. And if I make, oh yes, we heard it enough? Well, here's an official document from the fire department establishing that happened. I know it's not relevant. I'm sorry.
It has nothing to do with the case.
Okay, so did you get your car?
I actually paid for it yesterday for a full month. I mean, this man wreaked havoc on my life.
How much was the...
$1,800.
It was 19 at first.
Excuse me.
You want to pay 19?
Excuse me. The day I came to him in his salon, I showed him the first estimate that I told him I would get was for 18 and change. Varaz, his own people, estimated at 1,800. And that's what I paid for it. And
$1,800.
$1,800. So this is his own. This is his own people. This is Vahez' estimate.
Okay, Mr. Bull, you've been anxious to tell me your side of the story. Now I'm prepared to hear you, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Repair, Mr. Farkas' car. He agreed to pay for the repair. He never came by to pay for it.
Paper.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dwayne Bull, a Hollywood hair and makeup specialist, says his collision with actor Peter Farkas on Sunset Boulevard was Farkas's fault, and he shouldn't have to pay for the damage.
Now I'm prepared to hear you, sir.
Okay, Your Honor, the way I see it is, yes, he is correct. I was traveling west on Sunset Boulevard.
Stop playing with the papers. Talk to me.
Okay, I was just looking for a little document I wanted to show you as an exhibit. Okay, here it is. I was traveling west. Could you pass this to her, please? I was traveling west on Sunset Boulevard. Now, he was in the far right-hand turning lane, and it was 5 o'clock traffic. I truly believe that he was in that lane because on Sunset Boulevard, people get in that lane to speed to go fast. Your Honor, the way I was hit on the way my car personally was hit, if you look at the estimate, it was hit on my right side front door. Okay, so what I did was I put a signal to turn right. I think he was in this lane to go forward because he was not in our sight, nor did he have a signal.
So you weren't you weren't in the far right lane, correct?
No, I wasn't. I signaled to go.
You were not in the far right lane. You were in the center lane.
Yes. No, the lane next to the far right lane.
But he was in the far right lane.
Yes, right. Exactly.
So you went to make a right turn.
No, I signaled to
You
make a
went
right
to
turn.
make a right turn.
Yes.
And you were not in the far right lane.
No.
Right. You got out of the car. You went over to this gentleman. You signed a piece of paper indicating that you were prepared to pay for the damage. Right?
Yes. I had not even had the car a day, okay? And yes, I was nervous because I did not have insurance. And yes, I was nervous.
You didn't have insurance?
I didn't have insurance, and I didn't have a driver's license.
That's right.
Okay, so yes, I really was nervous.
So you didn't want, listen to me.
So I didn't want trouble with the police department.
That's
but
right.
not only that, he got personal with me. He asked me, was I gay, okay? And I responded, no, he was coming on to me at the time. And I played with the party too. Yes, I'm married, but of course I'm gonna play into it because I didn't want the police. And I felt if he thought I was gay, then maybe he liked me. It's obvious, he's Nelly.
Okay, Mr. Bull. Now he
this
comes.
is proof.
I want you to stop talking. Listen to me. I'm going to ask questions. You're going to answer them. He came to your salon. Now he got to Viha, the Armenian, through you. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm being totally honest. I was nervous. That's the only reason I signed this paper. I did not want to go to jail. Okay. My wife told me, listen, this guy is at fault. He's in our business, and he's screaming irate loud. He's from New York. He's obnoxious. It's obvious he's obnoxious. Look at him. Okay? He calls on my phone repeatedly. He tells me about his house caught on fire, how his kids are hungry. He needs his van to transport his kids. All this irrelevant stuff while I have very important clients that are there. In fact, my wife is here. It's proof that I had a client that sit there in the chair when I disputed with him for 20 minutes in my business, screaming because he has no patience and he acts immature. He screamed, 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 and I lost the client. She requested her $150 deposit back for, the services that were being rendered her. her hair extension. I am a popular hairstylist, and only thing I ever stated to this man is that when you want to speak to me, you do not call me at home and you make an appointment like everybody else.
Is that what is? Just
Yes.
a minute. Have we now completed your side of the story?
No, I have one more thing to say.
I'm ready to hear you, sir.
Your Honor, again, yes, I admit that my driver's license had expired, but again, from the way my car was hit, he said I hit him. It's obvious he hit me. From the way
That's really not urgently important, sir. I'm going to tell you why. Mr. Farkas had the right at that time, because there was an accident, to pick up the phone and call the police to have them come to the accident.
But why didn't he?
Why? Because I had...
No, because you had problems with your license, too. I'm almost certain you did. You had some kind of problem.
You looked at my license and said, you know, you're a typical Gemini. That was his comment.
Mr. Bull, you, sir, had no insurance and did not want the police to come because you were also driving with a suspended license. He gave up the right to call the police, to have the police come and make a determination based upon, don't interrupt me, based upon what they saw, whose fault this accident was. You said to him at the time,
He never mentioned police.
I will take care of the damage, and you signed a piece of paper indicating you would take care of the damage.
I signed that paper again because I was nervous.
Well, I don't care whether you were
Anybody
nervous or
signs
not.
paper, I mean,
I'm
under
not,
pressure.
listen.
I mean,
I want
was
you to
nervous.
get, I want you to get not nervous,
My
Mr.
personal
Bull.
lifestyle had nothing to do with this case whatsoever. And for him to mention those things about my personal, I think that it was very irrelevant. And it's obvious that, again, from the way the position my car was hit, that it was his fault. But of course, he's not going to admit it.
Your Honor, I was doing...
And you did real good.
I was doing the man a favor.
Doing me a favor.
He's telling me about his wife
Doing me a
problem. He's
favor.
telling me about the two-timing boyfriend. I mean, the man's got, you know, his sexual confidence. He's a menace on the road.
Mr. Farkas, Mr. Farkas.
I'm sorry. What the hell's so funny?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
He has no idea what my feelings are if I like to ride bicycles. He doesn't know that about
I
me.
dated him for 6 months. We've been friends for 9 months since then.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Mr. Farkas, you paid the $1,800 to have your
I
car
did.
fixed? Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,800. The defendant's counterclaim for harassment and all sorts of other things is dismissed.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
Please excuse, you may step out.
But you were very smart about getting those papers, because that's the only reason why you won this case. But other than that, she would have looked at it for my way. And another, I just think it's because you're blonde and blue-eyed.
I am absolutely convinced that Mr. Bull had his name shortened.
And now the next case.
All parties on Ryder versus Pullman. Step forward.
30-year-old marketing director Kirk Ryder says he loaned his bicycle to his ex-boyfriend Klaus Pullman, and it was stolen. So now Klaus should pay.
All right. Mr. Ryder, you say that you lent a bicycle to the defendant, and he had it in his possession for a long time, and then through his negligence, the bicycle was stolen. You want your money for the bicycle.
Well, I wanted a new bicycle, basically.
Did you
And-
lend him a new bicycle?
Pardon me? No, I
What
wanted
didn't you understand, sir?
I wanted my bicycle back,
Well, he couldn't give you your bicycle back.
right? So we entered
So my
into...
question to you is, did you lend him a new bicycle?
No, I did not.
How old was the bicycle that you lent to him?
The bicycle was 3 years old.
And had you purchased it?
No,
How did you get it?
it was... I inherited it from my best friend who died.
And what kind of bicycle was this?
It was a Univega Via Modego, 15-speed, hybrid bicycle.
What? What happened to a Schwinn?
I don't know. Schwinns are more expensive now.
Are they?
Yeah.
I'm glad to see if they're still in business. At least it doesn't date me.
They are.
All right. So you had the bicycle for how long before you lent it to him?
I had the bicycles since July 1996, when my friend died, and Klaus borrowed it in or around November, I guess. I'm not even sure.
Well, then I gather you weren't using it much.
Well, I was traveling. I travel for a living, so
So
I don't know which trip he borrowed it before. He borrowed it because his car broke down in the desert and he was using his bicycle to get around. Then the bicycle he was using that he owned broke, and I offered to lend him mine.
So far, does that sound right?
Yes, except for when he loaned it to me.
When did he loan it to you?
In June, in the summer.
Of 96.
Of 96.
What happened to his bike?
It was stolen.
Mr. Pullman, you understand that the bike is in your possession, then you have a responsibility to either replace it or to give him some compensation for it.
He neglected the bicycle. He didn't want the bicycle. It didn't work. It sat in his dining room for 2 years while he was traveling.
Objection.
It didn't work.
Your Honor. What? Sorry. Well, he has no, that's speculation. He has no idea whether I wanted the bicycle or not. I, out of the goodness of my heart, lent him a bicycle that had some emotional value to me as well as physical value of getting around.
So it doesn't seem to me, I mean, have you been friends for long? It's just too bad that this bicycle is presenting a problem to you. Why don't you just replace the bicycle?
Because he didn't want the bicycle. He left it. I took care of it. I didn't neglect it. I locked it with my bike, with my roommate's bicycle. It was in my garage. All three were stolen. He didn't want it. He liked it in my garage and not in his dining room. That's why I had it for so long. He didn't want to come get it. He wouldn't let me return it. He travels a lot, so it was his schedule that was in question. I work at home. I'm always there. He neglected the bike. He gave it to me. He didn't give it to me. He loaned it to me. Asked
right.
me to keep it for him.
He loaned you the bike.
I took care of it.
Good.
I housed it.
Good.
It was stolen. It's out of my control.
Right.
He neglected the bike a year ago. He loaned it to me a year ago this month.
Your Honor. Your
Yes,
Honor.
well.
He moved 2 blocks away from my house when he
Doesn't make
moved
any
to West
difference,
Hollywood.
Mr. Pullman.
He could have returned it.
Mr.
And
Pullman.
also, wait, one more thing. I believe that he did neglect the bike because I lent him the bike with a kryptonite lock, and he did not use that lock. He used a chain which could be cut easily.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY. Kirk Ryder says his ex-boyfriend Klaus Pullman should pay for the bicycle he borrowed because it was stolen while in his possession.
The only thing that I have to decide is on a value of this bicycle because you did not purchase it. To replace it is a problem because to replace it, what you're seeking is the full replacement value of the bike, which is, you say, $399 to replace a bike of similar quality. Is that what you indicated?
Which is actually less than the bike that was stolen is valued at.
Well, bicycles, listen to me, sir. Bicycles are not like diamonds. They don't appreciate in value.
Oh, I know that.
They depreciate in value. So if it had been bought for $500, it depreciates probably 50% in the first year that somebody has it. So then we're down to $250. That's after 1 year. So you're not going to get anywhere near what this bicycle would cost new. But you have to pay something to him, sir. You accepted it into your care. That's what we call almost a bailment. Even if he was storing it at your house and you agreed to accept it for storage, right, you have a certain responsibility towards it. You said something about this lock.
It's a standard bicycle kryptonite lock. He loaned it to me with the bicycle, but he didn't loan me the key.
So what'd you do with his lock?
The lock is with the bicycle. It stayed with the bicycle. It has a holder for it.
Okay.
Which
There's
I couldn't,
a lock.
which
There
I
was
couldn't get off without a key.
A tire pump and also a water bottle and cage. All accessories to the bike, which
Mr.
added
Ryder,
to the value.
Mr. Ryder, stop getting so excited. It's a bicycle. It's a bicycle that you didn't ride and you didn't miss for a year.
I did ride, Your Honor.
You're irritating me. Listen to me. From the time you lent it to him until March of this year, according to your own statement, you really did not make a request for this bike.
I made one request.
Wait, so evidently
no,
it
I
wasn't
made two. I made two.
Evidently it wasn't something that was right at the forefront, the signpost on your face. You know, it was
Well,
just
I didn't
a piece.
ride it because it wasn't in my possession. I had loaned it to a friend. That's why I was not riding the bicycle.
And your friend is going to give you $150 that you can use towards purchasing a new bike. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $150. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
We had talked about my compensating him for the loss of the bike, not because I felt responsible, but because I felt sorry for him.
Bottom line, he's bitter. There's a long, deep story that goes farther than this, but it's because he's bitter.
Versus Visner. Step forward, please.
35-year-old Mary Sauter met 29-year-old Brian Visner on a softball team. She loaned him money, and when they split, she says he kept using her credit cards.
Order. All rise. It's number 48 on the calendar, Judge, in the matter of Sauter versus Visner. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Ms. Sauter, according to your papers, you met the defendant in April of
Correct.
1995. Began dating in May of the same year.
Correct.
And by the middle or the end of the summer, you had loaned him about $1,500.
Thereabouts. Probably more than that, but that's what I'm alleging at this point.
Why?
Well, I met Brian, and we really had a lot of mutual interest together in regards to softball and such. And
You met him at a softball game, according to your papers.
yeah, we played co-rec softball together. Co-rec, men, women. Okay, half-half. All right. And during Memorial Weekend, in fact, we even went down to Chicago for the weekend and had a great time. Came back, and Brian really, truly, I knew was going through a lot of hard times. Had gone through several jobs, different changes in jobs. Brian has 2 children, great boys, and he was in arrears in regards to child support and is trying to get his feet back on the ground. And I truly believed at that point he was trying hard to get his feet back on the ground in regards to a new job.
But why did you give him money?
Because with his initiative, and I saw his motivation in regards to his job, that possibly, I mean, he promised to pay it back.
What kind of work were you doing?
I was, when I originally met her, I was working for my father in construction. And
That sounds as if it could be a long-term proposition. What happened?
well, we got slow, so I went on to started a maintenance company to do some work, and times were hard, but I never asked for anything.
You took?
No, I never asked for anything from
No, I
her.
didn't say asked. I
She
said,
offered,
but you took.
She offered, I took.
Okay. Tell me what you gave him.
Originally, he was asking for little amounts of money, you know, here or there. Hey, 20 bucks, 40 bucks, I'll get it back to you at the end of the week. Not a problem. I don't even have recollection of that.
Okay.
Okay. The first time really that he asked for a significant amount of money was the end of June. And in fact, I wrote a check out to him, which I have, for $350.
What was that for?
He needed money to pay his July rent in bills.
Is that right, sir?
No.
What do you mean no? It's made out to you.
She gave me cash. She wrote out
She
a
didn't
check, I
get-
cashed it, and
Yeah.
I didn't use it for, I never said anything about rent or anything like that.
Well, what'd you use it for?
Just going out, doing stuff.
What else?
I mean, he didn't even have money to go to work, okay? So I didn't want that to happen, okay? Because for him, for his kids, you know, my good heart that I wanted
And
to
you
help
thought
him.
you had a future together.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Right. You know, and things were going good.
Okay.
You know, that I thought, that I knew.
Your Honor.
And so at that point, I extended out an Amico credit card to him. And I said, here, Brian, now listen, anything that you use, it's your responsibility. Okay, we're gonna get through the tough times, but here's the card. I'm keeping track, you keep track, and let's go with it. He went with it. He went all out on it.
You mean you had the Amico company put a credit card in his name?
He was an authorized signer on my account.
Oh, okay.
Which ended real quick.
Not quick enough, according to
Correct.
your complaint.
Correct.
How much did he charge up on your credit card?
$700 on the credit card.
Yeah, okay. According to your complaint, there came a time when you told him, hey, Brian, give me back the credit card.
Right.
I'm ripping it up.
Correct.
Cutting it in half. You're not entitled
Yes.
to it anymore. Don't use it anymore.
Right.
When was that?
I threw an extravagant birthday party for him. Just a gala event. Blackjack tables, kegs of beer, decorations, food, okay? We were having a good time, you know, people were having a great time.
So what
All of a sudden, I looked, he's gone. He left. He left his own party. Left his van there, okay? And went with a bunch of his friends and took off.
Okay,
Didn't
so you
hear
got,
from him.
So you got angry, and that's when the romance was over.
Correct. That was it. That was the final straw.
All right. When did you get your credit card back?
The next day, I called Amico, and I said, no more. All right? I called him, and I said, Brian, no more. And
But did he continue to charge on your credit card after that?
he continued to charge after I found that Amico received a phone call, and he continued to authorize service on my card after he got my Social Security number.
Your Honor, that's not true.
Did you continue to use the card after she told you not to?
I went up to the pump to use it, and it was done. And I couldn't
Sir.
use it anymore, and then I threw it away.
Sir, listen to
There
me.
was never a call
listen.
from... Yes.
I asked you a simple question. After she told you not to use the card anymore, which was after your birthday party in July of '95?
Correct.
You continued to use the card.
From what I recollect is that it was not right after my birthday. It was... it had to be 3 weeks to a month later.
Had you been dating each other during that 3 or 4 week period?
She had got me into a golf tournament.
After your birthday?
After my birthday.
Can I see the Amico bills,
Yes.
please?
They start from 7/21 on.
And my birthday's 7/18.
Sir, you used this card until the end of December.
That's when I got a call that it was done. That's when she called me to tell me it was done. It wasn't in July
even
or
according
August.
to you, sir, it was maybe 3 or 4 weeks after your birthday party in July. That would bring us up into August. You used her card big time. September, October, November, December. That's outrageous.
2-3
Why
times
did you
a
do?
day.
Why did you do that?
I don't know.
Well, it was wrong.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Friday night softball games, I'd go into my bag after softball was done, and there'd be $200, $300 in there. In an envelope.
And later
Well,
today,
now you'll know better. You don't move in with somebody unless you love them, unless you're prepared to have aggravation.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. After Mary Sauter met Brian Visner playing softball, he borrowed money and used her credit card. They split. Now she wants the money back.
Why do you think you don't owe her this money? So far, we're up to $1,050.
Why don't I think I owe her the money? It's because she had done things through this whole relationship. The trip to Chicago was just I came home from work on a Saturday, and she called that Saturday afternoon and said, "You want to go to Chicago? I'm buying. Let's go have some fun." I said,
It's
"Well,
fine.
you know."
Wait, I haven't even talked about Chicago. I'm talking about the $350 she gave you for rent.
I have no clue what that was for. I mean, I don't think it was for rent. I really don't.
I don't care if you bought $350 worth of bubble gum with it. The idea is she gave you the money. What you did with it is your business. I'm
Right.
sure she didn't give you this check because you said, "I want to buy bubble gum." She gave you this check because you said you were in dire straits for money.
I was really never in dire straits for money. I was always working. I always had money.
All right. I'm up to $1,050, madam.
Yes.
Do you have any other checks that you say
Yes,
that
I
you can
did.
prove debt?
Yes. This is the other check that I have this is for cash. And he went to the bank with me because he didn't have a bank account, and I got straight cash for him.
Do you remember that, sir?
No. No, I don't.
Remember what this was for?
Cash.
I mean, but what did he need the money for in June? June 8th?
Probably like what he did on the Amical cards, cigarettes and whatever else he had. I mean, you know, if he says he's having money on his own, I have no idea. He went up to the, you know, I like to gamble too, but he's out to Mystic Lake, a gambling facility, when he doesn't even have money. He's probably using my money to gamble with.
Well, the memo on this, sir, is clearly, it says, "For you for cash."
I make all notes on
I'm
my
sure
checks.
it does. She probably wrote it out, cashed it, got the cash, and put that on there. That's fine. I don't remember receiving a check for that or
You
any
didn't
cash
get a check
for that.
for it cash. You mean to tell me you have no memory of getting cash from her?
Not for that. No.
For what?
For any. I mean, I do remember getting cash from her at other times.
Like how much?
Friday night softball games. I'd go into my bag after softball was done, and there'd be $200, $300 in there. in an envelope. I never asked for it. And then she'd put her name on there, yes, this is for me. So I'd take it, I'd spend it. I don't say what I did was right, it was wrong. But,
I've been a judge for a long time. What always strikes me as being interesting, for want of a better word, is that there are usually more women standing in your place and usually more men standing in his place than there are vice versa. When are women going to wise up?
I have.
When are women going to wise up? You don't know somebody 4 weeks and then give them money.
I have. I mean, I was like, I've been guilty of it for all my whole life. I was a good heart. That was it, and I've learned.
You ought to stop.
Well, believe
Your
me, I have
Honor.
a fiance now that gives me money, and we have everything together.
Your Honor,
what?
I'm not the first person that she's done this to. There's 3 or 4 other guys before me that she's done the same thing
You
for.
mean been very generous with?
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this
Very
question,
generous.
sir. When did you find that out?
After I started seeing Mary.
In
After.
what? You mean in May?
Well, maybe a few weeks after that.
Few weeks
after the trip
All right.
after the trip to Chicago.
Hey, talking. Few weeks after that, I want you to tell me how it came about that you found out that she had been generous with men friends before.
Other guys on the softball team that we played on.
And I usually don't accept hearsay, but the conversation was you going out with Mary and she's pretty generous with her money?
The conversation was, what did you do last week? And I said, Mary took me to Chicago. Well, she
Yeah.
likes to do that for the guys that she's seeing. She likes to spend money on them and treat them nice.
How lovely.
Your Honor?
Don't say anything else.
Okay.
Don't say anything else with the exception of learning the words, like almost like a mantra. I'm sorry I don't lend money to people that I know for such a short time.
Guilty.
Right. Guilty. Guilty. You owe her $1,500. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She said a lot of things. I took advantage of her, and I don't disagree with that. That's what Mary does for a living. She sues people.
And now the next case.
Parties on Magid versus Miller. Step forward, please.
27-year-old Sandy Majid is suing her roommate, John Miller, claiming he was violent and verbally abusive.
How long did you know each other before you decided to room together?
10 years.
Why did you decide to room together?
Because we were friends and he needed to move out of his place because he had a dog, and I moved out of my parents' house.
You weren't romantically involved, you were just friends.
Right.
Now, under this rather bizarre arrangement, reading the complaint, you were supposed to perform certain maid services in the house, like keeping the house nice and clean, doing the cleaning, the cooking, the washing, and he would pay all of the expenses with the exception of your phone bill. Is that the idea?
And the rent. I paid rent.
And you paid the rent, but he would pay everything else.
Yeah, but that only lasted for 2 months. And then we talked about it, and it wasn't working, so we
Yeah.
each decided to
After 8
take
months.
care of our own thing.
I paid all the bills for 8 months.
But, you know, he wouldn't clean up after himself if he left something. He'd just leave the sauce on the table. He wouldn't do normal maintenance. He'd give his dog a shower and have hair all over the place and water all over the floor. I mean, he didn't even pick up after himself.
It's not true.
Right! And I got one of those home.
Yeah.
And I pay half the rent.
Yeah.
Miss Majid, I don't like cleaning up after my husband, and I love him. You made an arrangement to clean up after this man, and after a while, you didn't even like him. Not too smart.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Could I talk about the pain and suffering?
No.
Okay,
You don't,
and
sir,
then
you don't look like you're in pain, and you don't look like you're
mental
suffering
anguish.
anymore.
If I
Mental
told
anguish.
you what she
Oh.
put me through.
Oh, God.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandy Majid is suing her former roommate, John Miller, for verbal abuse and destruction of property. John is countersuing for mental anguish.
It's always smart for women to pay their own way.
But we had...
If you, listen to me, if you pay your own way, then you don't have to take anybody's guff. Right, Bird?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so he didn't clean up after himself.
And I cleaned for about 2 months, and then I paid the other half of the bills.
It was only the utility bills. I would pay all the utility bills if she would do the cleaning, because I paid Sandy in my last apartment $50 to clean the place.
And I did.
And she did a great cleaning job. That's why I thought I'd work out this deal with her. The place would stay clean, and I would pay all the bills.
Well, staying clean is one thing, but you know, you can't be.
No, I
but she
wasn't
says you were
overdoing it.
being
No,
a
she would
slob.
never clean. Nothing.
Huh?
That's
She
not
never
true.
cleaned a thing.
All right, so you should have moved out after 2 months. You should have gone your own separate ways after 2
Yeah,
months.
well, we were
Would
friends
you-
for 10 years.
Would you mind telling me what you're suing each other for? You have a suit, you have a
Yeah.
countersuit. You want to tell me what you're suing him for?
I'm suing for my print and my frame here because he threw something at it and broke it.
Can I see it?
Yes.
He admits that he threw something at it and broke it, right?
Yeah.
Why were you mad at her
Well,
picture?
that was the last straw. That was when I had paid all the bills and done the cleaning. Her dog had chewed up my sofa. And then I gave her all the money to pay the bills, and she went on vacation with the money, and I got disconnect notices. I had to pay the bills again. When I called her up and told her, she says, "What do I care if they were turned off? I'm moving out anyways." A moment later, when I hung up the phone, that's when I smashed the picture.
All right, so
she
you
was
smashed
moving
the
out.
picture, but that's just the glass on the picture,
That's
madam.
right.
No, it's also that there's scratches on the print.
Would you
and
show
the-
me where, please?
Right there. And right here, it devalued the thing, and right, it messed up the mat.
Well, the mat
and
is-
the frame is all scratched.
Just a second. How much did you pay for that?
For the frame and the picture?
For everything.
$920.
$920?
Yeah.
Where did you buy that?
At the Wing Gallery.
Do you like this picture, sir?
Yeah.
Give it to him.
Yeah, he can have it.
All right.
All right. What else are you suing him for?
All right.
I'm
Here's
also
a couple
suing
bucks for it.
for
I feel like I'm running a tag sale here.
the last month and a half of rent because I wasn't there, because he
Not
was
my fault.
throwing
Just a
things and
second.
being angry.
Just a second. Did you leave?
Yes.
You don't get that. What's next?
So I had to pay for the last months of rent, and I wasn't even staying there.
But you left. I mean, you agreed to rent this apartment together, right? Am I
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So you have a responsibility to pay until the end of your lease. So that you don't get.
It was
What else are you
month to
suing for?
month. Pain and suffering, because, I mean, he would just verbally abuse me, and...
You're not married to each other if you're not getting along with your roommate. Then
But,
you're
I
not
mean,
getting
you
along
know,
with
he'd
your roommate.
leave that place a mess constantly. I mean, it was just like I couldn't win.
Well, now you'll know better. You don't move in with somebody unless you love them, unless you're prepared to have aggravation.
But I couldn't stay there because I
You
was,
say you
I
couldn't
was
stay there.
afraid
You
to
don't
stay
like.
there.
You weren't getting along, madam. You weren't getting along. You knew each other for 10 years.
He
You
was
weren't getting along. You
throwing
moved out.
stuff and yelling.
Oh God. What are you suing her for, sir?
She was supposed to clean the house, which she didn't do. So I'm suing $640, which is half the utility bills, which I should get back.
Because you don't like the way she kept the house.
She didn't clean the place at all. I would do any
That's not
cleaning.
true. Good. That's why you're not together anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Okay,
All
so that's
right.
part of mine.
Just a second. What's the other part? Your pain
That-
and suffering. I saw
yeah,
your pain and suffering
that's
too.
a-
Everybody's
that's-
got pain and
That's
suffering.
really a
Bert.
big part of my case.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Sir, you don't look like you're in pain, and you don't look like you're suffering
Mental
anymore.
anguish. If I
Mental
told you
anguish.
what she
Oh.
put me through, could I mention a few things?
Mention a few things.
Okay, let's put it this way. After she lost her job, she had a really bad mental breakdown. She went to counseling on Prozac. Next thing I know, every time I would take a shower, she'd run the hot water in the kitchen so I wouldn't have any hot water.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, just like you told me you used to lock your mother in the walk-in closet.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Miller, is there
I have a
anything
lot
else
of
you
little
want?
things like that that are sad and ridiculous, you know.
Sounds like what married people do to each other.
Yeah.
Your countersuit is dismissed, sir. You just bought a picture for $920. Judgment in the case is for the plaintiff. Hang the picture, put a piece of glass. It's really very nice.
All right.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
She didn't keep her end of the agreement, you know. I'm paying all the bills, and she's turned the place into a pigsty. She was continuing cleaning other people's homes. She said, I have to clean that person's home for $50. Then she wanted me to pay her to clean up her own mess.
I don't hate him. We just didn't get along as roommates.
Yeah, it sometimes happens when you live together, but it's sad after 10 years of friendship it had to come down to this.
Parties on Spann versus Wilson. Step forward, please.
Janet Spahn, a 35-year-old housewife from Colorado, is suing her former babysitter, 18-year-old Eric Wilson. 2 years ago, Eric was arrested for stealing money from Janet's home. Now, Janet alleges more money is missing and believes Eric is to blame.
Order, all rise. Your Honor, this is case number 163 on the calendar in the matter of Spann versus Wilson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
All right, let me understand this case. Miss Spahn, this young man babysat for you, for your children.
Yes.
A couple of years ago.
Yes.
And at that time, he wasn't doing so well. You didn't know it at the time?
No, I did not.
But you had a drug problem,
Yes, I did.
and you had been involved in a series of criminal activity
That
that
is
you're not
correct.
proud of now, I understand.
That is correct.
You're his mother.
Yes, I am.
While he was babysitting for you, he stole some money.
Yes, he did.
And he was arrested and prosecuted.
Correct.
What was your sentence?
I got theft charges. I was ordered to pay restitution in the amount that she had requested.
How much was that?
It was $900, I believe, and it ended up being $1,200 after all of the fees and everything, all the victim assistance, all of that. And I paid that in full, and I was ordered to go on to probation. I finished all my probation stuff. I did my community service, paid all my restitution.
What kind of community service did you have to do?
Weekend work crew. I'd have to go up into the mountains and dig trails and stuff, and kind of.
And according to your complaint, Ms. Spahn, you found out that there was more money taken that was originally either reported or somehow the paperwork, the police paperwork,
Yes.
Was lost.
It was not in the actual record, the original record, this is the original report, and this is the second report, which we did file within the statute of limitations, that showed the additional $900 was missing. Now, it was $1,100 originally, which we were paid the restitution after, the balance was paid, and this is the additional $900 that was missing, which is what I am here for.
Mm-hmm. Your neighbors.
Yes.
Ms. Spahn, if I find out that what this young man says in his answer is true, this is a sympathetic case on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Because what this young man says, and his mother seems to confirm, is that in the last 2 years he has, in fact, turned himself around. Drug-free?
To a point, yes.
What do you mean to a point?
I've been working on it. I have been clean for about a month now.
What kind of drugs were you using?
Marijuana and alcohol.
Mm-hmm. You can't just work on that, sir. You
Yeah.
have to, after 2 years.
I know
Stop.
it does take time, and it's kind of hard. It's
Well-
a difficult thing to do, and with the right people around me and the right kind of stuff in my head and not hanging around the bad crowd, I think I can do it.
Did you get your GED?
Yes, I did.
That says that you did here and that you scored rather well.
Yes, I did.
Have you been arrested in the last 2 years?
No.
Since this incident? You seem to say, the
Yes, he
smile
was.
on your face suggests to me that you know he's been arrested
Yes,
since.
he was. The officers actually called me at home.
When?
3 months later, my house was broken into. We assumed it was him, and the police called me to verify that he was arrested 2 days later. And that's when he went to the detention center up at Lookout Mountain.
I never went to Lookout Mountain. I did go to a detention center for a shoplifting charge, Mount View Detention Center.
Let's talk about the last year.
Okay.
Have you been arrested in the last year?
No.
You had to hesitate for a minute.
Well, I wasn't quite sure. I haven't been arrested. I haven't gone to jail or anything, no.
Well, I didn't ask you whether
I
you went
did
to
get a
jail. I asked you
ticket.
whether you were arrested.
I did get a ticket.
What kind of ticket?
Underage drinking.
Ms. Spahn, why is it, first, that that second amount of money, that $900, was not originally reported?
That was up to the sheriff that made the report out, and it explains it all here in this report.
Let me take a look at it.
Showing that the original $900 that was originally stolen was never made it onto this report. And that states it there.
How old are your children?
Almost 7, and the other one is 4.5.
So they were 2 and 5 when he babysat for you?
Actually, yes, around there.
Did he take good care of them?
Do I? Of course.
Did he take good care of
them? No.
But you used him as a babysitter frequently?
4 times.
And you were dissatisfied the first, second, and third time?
The third time. That's when we had found out that money started disappearing out of the house. I came home, my son had a bloody nose, he was in bed, he had blood all over his face and everything, and he had just left him. Obviously, he was going through my house at the time, rummaging through everything that I own.
You want to tell me about taking the money from her house?
Well, I was with my cousin, which was unmentioned to this point so far. He lived in Tennessee at the time, and I actually was not taking part in the theft of the money.
What do you mean you weren't? Listen to me. Mr. Wilson, I want to know. It's very important that when you answer questions that I pose to you, that you tell me the truth.
Right, I understand.
You understand that?
Yes.
I don't want to hear excuses. I don't want to hear nonsense. I don't want to hear that you didn't take part in it. If your cousin was with you and you saw him take the money, and the reason he had access to her house is because you were there, then you're responsible. Do you understand?
Yes.
Is that the kind of excuse you were going to make to me?
No, not exactly.
Oh, well, then I'll hear your excuse.
It's okay. I guess I'll just say I took it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I drive by their house.
And your dogs
I drive by their house, and their little kids flip me off.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Janet Spahn claims her former babysitter, Eric Wilson, stole a large amount of cash from her house and wants him to fess up and pay her back.
Well, I'm being very serious with you. If your cousin was with you from Tennessee, which is what you say here, and that you took the rap for him.
I did.
But your cousin had access to her home through you.
Yes, she agreed. She agreed that my cousin could be with me when we were babysitting. She did agree to it. And when I got back the next day and when I found out the next morning that money was missing, I asked him, and we had gone shopping that night, and he had said he had some money left over. Let's go have a good time, you know. I didn't know it was stolen from her house.
But it had been stolen over a period of several days, not just one day. How many days was your cousin at the house with you?
I believe he did go twice with me.
Mm-hmm. You paid the restitution yourself. Did you ever try to get any money from your cousin?
No.
Why not?
Well, when my grandfather had died, my aunt and uncle, we were out playing basketball and stuff, and my uncle actually kind of assaulted me, so we haven't spoken to them since.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But you asked that your cousin could accompany you in this babysitting job, and she gave permission.
Yes.
So your cousin did have access to her home through you.
Correct.
All right. Now, she says there's an additional $900. Why did you keep so much cash in the house?
We had just sold a 1926 Model T in California here, and we had brought the cash home, and we had not deposited into the bank yet because we were having a carpenter come in to redo our basement. So he wanted to be paid cash, and it had only been 1 week that we had had the cash in the house.
Was the cash kept all in one place?
Yes, it was. It was in a sock rolled up in a locked bedroom behind a bed.
So how come you didn't know at one time how much was missing?
We knew that some money was disappearing. My husband was accusing me, and I didn't know where the money was at the time.
What do you mean, missing from the sock?
Yes, a little bit at a time. And then we put 2 and 2 together, and we had set up some tape in the bedroom door. So when the door had been opened and unlocked, that the tape would be stuck at the top of the door, which it was. He had entered the bedroom, and the sock was on the side of the bed with half the cash hanging out. That was the last night. That was when there was $1,100 taken out that was one day. He took $1,100 out.
How much money in total was in the sock?
$4,000 total.
And how much was
$2,000 ended up missing. $1,100 was retrieved through court and through the money that he had left. He had used credit cards out of my purse and everything else.
Did you
trying
do
to
that?
buy-
No.
Who did?
I have no.
I have a
no
document right here.
recollection of that.
Let me see what you have.
brought up at court?
Yeah.
It was done on the same day that he had stolen the $1,100. It was notarized and said that that somebody had tried to purchase video equipment, which is what he bought with our money when they retrieved it.
Did you find your credit card?
Oh, yes, I did. The credit card had not been activated yet. So that's why they notified us. So all these things happen within like a week.
Okay. Now, I'd like you to tell me why you don't think that you should be responsible for this additional $900, which I believe was missing.
Well, when she did originally say it, it did change. The amount of what was missing changed 3 different times. We told the judge this at the original trial or original hearing. I pled guilty to the charge. I paid my restitution in full. I paid what the judge ordered me to pay. I paid what she asked the judge to pay, the requested amount. I paid the requested amount. I got off of probation. I paid all my restitution. I filled my debt to society. I'm trying to get back on the straight and narrow, working hard.
Mr. Wilson, this report suggests that there was some sort of a snafu in the police paperwork. That the money was reported missing, but somehow missed it when it was ultimately presented to the court. So we're faced with a situation where this lady is going to be out $900, which seems to be unfair. And on the other hand, you seem to suggest that you're trying to get your life back in order. And the fact that you've paid your debt to society, which is what you say, doesn't necessarily mean you've paid your entire debt to this lady, because she's still out an additional $900.
I never saw that $900.
Well, whether you saw it or not, if somebody took the money, it wasn't her 2-year-old, it wasn't her 4-year-old, you were involved with drugs and alcohol at the time. I don't know what your cousin was involved with, drugs and alcohol, or maybe he's just a thief. But either you or he, through you, because that's how he got access to her home, took her property. Somebody has to pay for that.
Correct.
There is something else in this complaint that, however, that bothers me, Ms. Spahn.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She threatens to kill us and tells us she will not leave us alone until we move.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Eric Wilson says after he was arrested for stealing from his neighbor, Janet Spahn, he paid the money back to her. Now Eric says Janet won't stop harassing him and his family.
What bothers me is that you folks are neighbors, and there's a suggestion in the answer that there's a lot of hostility that's still going on now from your end. Your husband, you're angry, and you do things to
Certainly.
harass them. You have a boy and a girl?
No, I don't. I have 2 sons.
Miss Spahn, I assume that you let this young man babysit for you because you know his family, you know his mother. Did she always?
No, I did not.
Well,
we had just moved here. We just moved to Colorado at the time, and I had asked his mother, assuming that she would, think that, if her son had good intentions to watch my children, if he did not, that she would not let him babysit. But she did, and she knew what his intentions were.
Well, I don't think
that was false on my part.
No, I did not. Miss Spahn, I don't think that this lady knew what her son's intentions were.
I came over to their house and introduced myself, and they never even met my mother before I started babysitting.
Do you have other children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many other children do you have?
I have 1 daughter.
How old is she?
15.
She okay?
She's great.
She have any trouble with drugs, alcohol, school?
No, I think her brother's been a good example of a bad example, and she's everything against it. because of that, whether that's good or bad, but she's very Christian and she's very straight.
Does your husband live in the house with you?
Oh, yes.
Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I run a bank.
And what about your husband?
He works for the school district.
So, and you have a long work history? You've been
Yes.
working for a long time? How many years at the same job?
Well, I got promoted, so I went to a different position, but I've been in banking for 11 years.
And your husband, how long has he been working for the school system?
13 after he got out of college. He went right there, and he's been there for 13 years.
Let me tell you why I'm asking these questions, Ms. Spahn, so you'll understand. I've been around the family courts for a quarter of a century. And what strikes me is sad, has always struck me as being sad. You can expect a child to go off, get involved in drugs, alcohol, criminal activity, if they come from a family that is dysfunctional. But what I've seen more and more of is families that appear to be perfectly functional families have a child that just goes bad. And you hope that that turns around. And you never know when that's going to happen. So what I'm suggesting to you is you have 2 young boys. As good a parent as you are, as good an example as you set for your children, as law-abiding as you are, work history for over a decade, right out of school, got a job, and working in the same job, that's this lady and her husband. I'm sure they try to set a good example for this young man, and they don't know what happened.
Something went wrong.
It happens.
I know.
You have to feel sorry for that. Because, but for the grace of God, it could be you.
Or my kids.
Or your kids.
That's right.
So while there's no question that I believe that this young man is responsible for paying you, for making you whole, I think it's a tragic mistake for you and your husband to continue what I will refer to as a minor vendetta against the family. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
So this is a neighbor. This lady did not hope for the kind of problem that she's having with this boy. And I have a sense, from looking at her face, that it ain't over yet.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You better straighten yourself out. Kids make mistakes when they're young, and they say, well, I have a whole lifetime to correct them. How old are you now, 17?
18.
18.
I just turned 18, and I was going to get my record sealed.
Well, you're not going to get your record sealed, sir, if you just got a ticket for underage drinking. That doesn't suggest to me a year ago or whatever, and Mr. Wilson, listen to me. You just told me 2 minutes ago that you've been clean for about a month. That isn't exactly a lifetime.
Right.
The mistakes you make when you're 15, 16, 17, and 18, sometimes you can't correct them because they create a lifelong habit. So you have choices that you have to make. And if you don't make responsible choices starting right now, sir, at age 18, you're going to suffer your whole life, and your mother's going to suffer her whole life, and your father's going to suffer his whole life. They ever do anything bad to you?
No.
Are they good parents?
Very good.
It's your responsibility now at age 18 to see to it that they have pleasure from you, not grief.
Right.
So you better start trying harder, much harder. All right, judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Here you are, ma'am.
Thank you.
And on the next Judge Judy.
She threatens to kill us and tells us she will not leave us alone until we move. And I just can't keep going like this. She put a sign up on her tree, which I could take pictures of, and told me that she will shoot my son if she comes in his way. Don't you dare laugh at me because I have 3 boys.
They called my father and told him that
So
we have
she
a
laughs
security
about this.
system
She has
and
her
a gun
little kids
comes near
flip
us.
them off.
They come near us again.
That's
we're
great
gonna
treatment
blow
for
them
a
away.
4-year-old.
I drive by their house and their little kids flip me off.
Excuse me.
Yes.
She's not out there because she's in the house
so.
getting high with her husband. She would not know. Enough is enough. It's settled. She has everything. All we want to do is be left alone. You know,
Which
that's all we
will
want to
never
do.
happen until we move.
Party's on Cole versus Wyden. Step forward, please.
29-year-old Kitty Cole is suing 41-year-old film producer Sherry Wyden for an evening gown, car rental, and a pair of Versace sunglasses. Sherry is countersuing for lost gemstones and the cost of spa treatments.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 47 on the calendar in the matter of Cole versus Wyden. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Ma'am.
I have in your complaint that your name is Cole Chipman, also known as Kitty Cole. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, you met the defendant in Aspen, Colorado, and shortly after that meeting, things happened as a result of which she owes you money and has retained some property. I have your counterclaim indicating that they owe this gentleman and this gentleman owe you money. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So why don't you tell me about that, Mr. Cole?
I met Sherry in Aspen. She came to Los Angeles shortly thereafter to see me. She came for 3 days. It ended up being 10 days. She had just moved to Scottsdale, so she asked my friend Danielle and I to go to Scottsdale like about 2 weeks later for an open house that she was having and to help her with her party. She was recently divorced, very upset, you know, didn't know anybody, the whole bit. She offered to take us to Scottsdale, pay for our trip there. Just before we left to go to Scottsdale, she asked if we could please rent a car because her new car had just blown up, apparently, and she was renting a limousine. And the limousine was too expensive, so if we would just rent a car, she'd reimburse us. So that's $350 for that.
You were staying at her house?
Yes, as she requested. We helped her with the party. We did the party. Then after the party,
What do you mean you did the party?
Are
you in the entertainment business?
A little bit.
What do you mean a little bit?
A little bit, meaning I'm a fundraiser. I do fundraiser for various AIDS charities as the character Kitty Cole. I ran for mayor 2 years ago of Palm Springs as a fundraiser for AIDS
Is that
charities.
how you earn a living?
No.
Well, what were you doing? I mean, quite frankly, the two of you don't look as if this would be a match made in heaven. I mean, it doesn't look like the kind of friendship that I would envision as resulting in a meeting at Aspen, quite frankly. I mean, what did you have in common with this lady?
We were company for a recent divorcee, I guess.
Okay. Okay.
I used to live in Aspen, and that was her first year there. So
let me ask you this question.
Yes, ma'am.
When you met her, were you outfitted as a man or a woman?
I was outfitted as a man.
And when you came to visit her and stayed in her house,
She asked us to dress up in drag and go out with her because she had remembered Kitty Cole from when I ran for mayor.
but other than dressing up and going out with her, when you were hanging around the house, were you dressed as a man or a woman?
As a man.
Okay. So when you came to court today, you decided to put on the lame.
Well, I had to show you why the other part of the case was relevant. This is a other part of the case.
Well, the other part of the case, you said, had to do, in addition to the $300, there's something about tickets that she promised to get you for an AIDS function.
Right.
And that she reneged on getting you those tickets, and you laid out money for a dress.
Right.
Is that the other part of the
Yes, ma'am.
lawsuit?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm unimpressed with that, but you can tell me about it.
Well, it's just because the Kitty Cole character goes to all the fundraisers and stuff like that as just sort of a, you know, celebrity personality, whatever you want to call it. I help as many AIDS charities as I can. So in order to go to all these events, as I cannot always afford $1,000 a week tickets or $500 a week tickets, I get people to donate money to the charity. In return, I either get a ticket from the charity or they give me a ticket.
Okay. So she promised she'd get you 2 tickets, and then she said, I'm not giving you the tickets.
Correct.
So why does she owe you money for that?
She owes me money because she said, I'll get you the 2 tickets, now you have to go get something to wear to the event, and I want you to go as Kitty. And so go have something ready to wear to the event. So we...
That doesn't necessarily mean you go out and shop, get something new. Didn't you folks have anything in your closet that you could have worn?
Well, one of the things about Kitty is that I've never worn the same thing twice.
Listen, give me a break, will you please? All right, what else does she owe you?
She owes for the rental car. She has a pair. When we were at her house, we accidentally left a pair of important sunglasses to me.
Important. You said important. First you said they were Versace. She said she took them to the local Versace and they were $5 glasses that looked like Versace.
It says made in China on the side.
Well, where are the glasses?
Actually, they're in my purse.
Could I see them, please?
Absolutely.
Just a second. Stop everything. I got to see the glasses.
May I?
Are those the glasses?
Oh, yeah.
Are those the glasses, Bert?
Oh, yeah.
Could I see them,
Please. China, right here, China. Nothing by Versace is made in China. It's all made in Italy.
Well, you don't want them anyway, right?
No, I don't. I wear prescription.
Right. So you can give these back to Mr. Cole. They're yours, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Now, she's got some gemstones that she says you have in your possession.
No, ma'am, I don't.
What about these stones that you say
I
he
gave
had?
both of you numerous.
No, don't talk to them.
Fancy
Talk to
cut.
me.
I gave them gemstones.
You gave them to them.
Well, I lent them to them.
Gave
if he
and lend
wanted
is
to
two
make a
different
ring.
things.
Cole called me and said, Sherry, I don't want these stones. I don't use colored stones. All I use are diamonds. I'm giving these back to you. I was at the Mondrian. He goes, I'm sending these back to you. I
Is there
never got
anything-
them back.
Yeah, where are the stones?
In her passenger side of her bed at home.
Whose passengers?
I mean, my side of the bed in her house where we stayed, I left the stones and these little things called eye beads. She said there's some precious
No,
thing
you
that she
returned
has
the
so
eye
many
beads
of
to the
them.
hotel.
Listen. Are you telling me that if she opens up this drawer in her house, she's going to find those stones?
Yes,
No,
ma'am.
there's
And my
nothing in
friend
that drawer.
knows that
No.
I left them there because I didn't want them.
No.
I have no use for little colored rocks.
Okay,
and-
well,
All right. So
rocks,
there we go.
sapphires?
There we go. Hey,
I'm sorry.
you're claiming in your cross complaint they owe you for spa treatments. You say you took them to some fancy place
Yes, I
when they
did.
were in Arizona. You put them up in a hotel room. They promised to pay for their own meals and spa treatments.
Right.
Did you promise to pay for your own spa treatments?
No, ma'am.
Did you have spa treatments?
Yes, ma'am.
I have the bill from the hotel.
Well, tell me what the arrangement was.
That I was going to pay for the suite. We had a beautiful, huge, gorgeous suite. It was for like 2 days so we could relax and just enjoy
Who went
ourselves.
there?
Who?
Yeah.
Me,
3 of you?
Dean, yes.
Interesting group.
And they were supposed to. Well, you know what? When he's a man, he's a totally different person.
I believe that.
I don't know this person.
I don't know this person either.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What kind of treatments did you have?
I had a mud bath and a massage.
And facial.
I think I've been in California too long.
And later today,
He's entitled to say, I'm not your mother. I'm not your fiance. I'm not your father. Borrow from somebody else in order to get me my money so I can get my car out of hock.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kitty Cole wants film producer Sherry Wyden to pay her for a dress, car rental, and a pair of sunglasses.
Did you indicate at any time that you were going to reimburse her for the spa treatments? What kind of
Never.
treatments did you have?
I had a mud bath and a massage.
And facial.
Listen, have you ever done this sort of thing before?
No, and no favor
Now,
goes
Miss
unpunished.
Wyden, I would suggest you not do it again.
I think you're
Mr.
right.
Cole, you got your sunglasses back?
Yes, ma'am.
Have a happy life.
Thank you.
Your complaint is dismissed. Your counterclaim is dismissed. Next time, choose friends more carefully. I suggest that if you take people who you never met into your home, right?
Oh, no,
Listen
no.
to me.
Okay.
You take people you never met into your home. To me, you got to be a nut to give them gemstones that mean anything to you. Anything to you. To me, if you meet somebody that you never met before, and she invites you to her home, and you rent a car for $300, how long did you stay in her house?
7 days.
And I had a
6
limousine and a
days.
chauffeur that I took them in the whole time. I didn't need their
Please,
car.
I don't know what it is with you people. I think I've been in California too long. The case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's just exploited every private part of my life that there ever was. That, you know, a friend, you would tell a friend, and then she goes and exploits everything about you and laughs about it, and I'm over it.
And now the next case.
Parties on Scott versus Khan. Step forward, please.
Limousine driver Larry Scott says Serena Khan smashed wine glasses and damaged his limousine the night of her bachelorette party.
You, sir, own a limousine,
Yes, ma'am.
and you were hired to take a group of young ladies out for an evening to celebrate a wedding. So this was a bachelorette party.
Correct.
You were getting married.
Yes.
A bunch of girls arranged for you to have a bachelorette party.
Yes.
And according to your complaint, sir, the bride-to-be had a really good time. Got drunk as a skunk. Did a whole bunch of things that were very unladylike that I'm sure she wouldn't like taped. But in addition, she damaged your limousine.
That's correct.
How did she do that?
Upon exiting the car, I put my hand out. She had a glass of champagne in her left hand. And as she was coming out, she more or less drug it across the bar, hitting some other champagne glasses, and broke them.
Well, so what was the damage to the limousine?
Well, she broke the glasses, and in the process of breaking the glasses, the glass scratched the tinted windows, one tinted window, and it damaged the tinted window, which had to be repaired. And she told me, she said, no problem, that her fiance had a Visa card, and just bill him. A day or two passed, I called.
And she didn't pay?
She developed amnesia.
You have the bills for the repair for the limousine?
Sure.
I'd like to see them, please.
And then there was also downtime for the limousine.
What time?
Downtime. What had happened is, in the process of me taking the car in for repair, I had a run that I couldn't meet, which cost me $1,000.
So they replaced all the tinted windows. So I'm
Right.
not considering the time that your limousine was down. Should have taken it early in the morning or whatever it was. That's the damage she caused, $300.
And the glasses.
And how many glasses?
There's 3 glasses involved.
And how much were they a piece?
They're $20 a piece.
$60. Okay, Ms. Khan, let's hear you.
I told him that when he called me Wednesday, he called me 4 days later, and he said, I just got my limousine out of the shop. When are you going to pay me? And I said, what are you talking about? I mean, didn't remember nothing.
Who didn't remember?
I didn't remember anything.
Well, you didn't remember anything because you were?
I was drunk.
Drunk.
I was drunk. I
Why
was
in the world?
fully intoxicated.
And your defense is your defense is A, I don't remember.
No.
Is that right?
No.
Well, what's your defense?
Anybody, there was 3 other girls behind me from what what my witness has told me, as I'm getting out behind her, anybody could have broke the glass. I just happened to be the bride-to-be and the drunkest out of every single girl that was there.
That's what happens when you get drunk, Miss Khan. You don't remember what happened.
That's true.
I mean, because you had several defenses. Your defense is A, I don't remember because I was drunk. B, now they say maybe it wasn't me, it was somebody else. And then your answer, you sort of intimate that that's what happens when you rent a limousine. You go out to one of these parties. You should expect that, and you should have put plastic glasses in his car.
Correct.
You are blaming everybody except yourself.
No, I offered him payments. I told him that I will.
Now
It was my bachelorette party. I offered him payments. He said no. I want all the money by next week. I'm sorry. I don't have $360 to give you, guy. Do what you got to do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Come on, girl. Come on. Let me take you now, then. Chicken.
Closed captioning sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Limousine driver Larry Scott says Serena Khan smashed wine glasses and damaged his limousine the night of her bachelorette party.
Who arranged for this limousine?
Esther Rios.
Esther Rios, would you
My
step
maid
up?
of honor.
Were you a witness to what happened?
Yes, I was.
Well, you want to tell me what you saw?
Well, my sister got out of the limo when he stopped at a local club. She was the first one to get out. And the last
Your sister isn't here?
No, she's not.
Okay.
There were 2 other girls prior to Serena getting... Serena got out. So she broke the glasses. All 3 of there was 2, actually. It looked like there was more because there were so many of them broken. And Larry, at that time, said, that's it. The party's over. And I said, Larry, Serena kept saying, I promise you, Larry, I'll pay him. I promise you I'll pay for the damages. Rick has a visa. Don't worry, we'll take care of it. And just please finish the run.
So you actually saw her get out of the car and damage
I did.
the car?
She was so drunk.
Right up here. Your name?
My name's Jennifer Kirtland. We started out at the bachelorette party at my apartment. Then we met the limo driver here. Esther insisted.
Slowly.
Esther insisted that we take this limo. We didn't have enough girls to fill this limo. There was no.
You were in the limo. You got into it. Nobody dragged you in there.
Okay.
Good.
Anyway, upon exiting the limo, Serena did not have a glass in her hand because I had made sure that all the glasses were back in their holders before we got out. So I know that is not true. And I'm not saying that Serena didn't do it, but usually limo companies have insurance for this kind of thing or whatever. And she didn't sign any contracts saying that, you know, she was going to be responsible for anything.
Is that are you her lawyer?
No, I'm not.
So your defense on behalf of your friend is that they should have carried insurance, drunk insurance.
No, I'm not saying that.
Drunk insurance.
I'm not saying that.
No, people are supposed to act responsibly, and if you get drunk...
You should know, Jen.
Stop! Hey, now you can sit down.
Thank you.
When people get drunk, they have to understand that if they do something that's foolish or ridiculous and it damages somebody else's property, they got to pay for it. Not an insurance company, because if he had insurance and he put it through his insurance, ultimately, in the trickle-down effect, Bird would have to pay for it. Right, Bird?
Absolutely.
In your insurance. And you don't like that because Bird doesn't even drink.
I understand that.
Do you understand? So you can't make excuses. So far from this end of the table, I've heard the excuse. How many excuses? 4? 4 that I counted?
That's 4.
4 that I counted. 4 that I counted.
You know,
Why don't you
Your
just-
Honor,
Yeah.
Your Honor, I take responsibility for being drunk off my behind, okay? I really do, okay? But I have my maid of honor. Don't worry about it. Have a good time. I'm going to take care of you. We're going to go out. You're going to have a blast. Here's your initiation sheet. I'm right by your side. This is the one that was right by my side, okay? I offered this man payments, okay? I offered him $150 the first week of May and $150 the second week of May. And he told me, no, I want it all by next week.
Miss Khan, you think that the person, just listen to me. See, he had his car fixed, and they say to him, you don't get your car back until the bill is paid. You think that the guy would appreciate it if he said, well, I'm going to give you half of it now and half of it in June?
No, I understand that.
Just, you know, since when did he become a partner in your misfortune? He is not a partner in your misfortune.
But how do I know that
So
the chip wasn't there before the glasses broke?
Hold on a second. Listen to what you're saying.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
First, you tell me that you realize it was your responsibility, it was your bachelorette party, and you called him and told him that you would pay him for the damage to his car, but you could only make it in payments.
Right.
Because you didn't have it all at one time.
Right.
Right? So far, you're almost reasonable. He's entitled to say, I don't want to accept payments because I have to pay for my car all at one time for me to get back my car. Now, I'm not your mother. I'm not your fiance. I'm not your father. I have no relationship with you at all. Borrow from somebody else in order to get me my money so I can get my car out of hock.
No.
Just a second. What do you mean no?
No.
What do you mean no?
No, because you know why? He calls up Esther and he tells Esther, tell her I'll take the payments now because I really don't want to take her to court. You know, I'm like...
Just a second. If he called your husband and your husband said, because now you're married, okay, I'll pay him.
Right.
So why didn't you just pay him?
No, we agreed to pay him $150 of payment, okay? He told his wife that, okay?
You made a $150 payment?
No, we didn't. But we agreed. My husband, that's what my husband said, that he agreed to do that. So...
What does your husband do for a living?
He's a glazer.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a receptionist.
You have children?
I have 4.
You have 4 children? With this husband?
No.
Do they live with you, your children?
Yes, they do.
Should spend your money someplace else other than having a bachelorette party and be a little more mature. A mother of 4 children who's 26 years old has already made enough mistakes in her life. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $360. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Don't talk about me, Serena. You've been doing this for 11 years that I've known you.
Who?
11 years.
At my wedding.
You.
were.
Look at this.
I'm giving up.
11 years. 11 years. Yeah. Come on, girl. Come on. Let me take you now, then. Chickens.
Party's on Cox versus Tagliavore. Step forward, please.
20-year-old Wendy Cox is suing her uncle, 50-year-old Joseph Tagliavore. Wendy says before her grandmother died, she promised Wendy she could have her 1991 Ford Thunderbird. Joseph says the car should be sold and the money divided equally between him and his siblings.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please, all rise. Your Honor, this is number 178 on the calendar in the matter of Cox versus Tagliavore. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Miss Cox, this is your uncle.
Yes.
And who are you?
I'm Joe's wife.
Your grandmother, your mother, passed away.
Yes.
According to your complaint, your grandmother, with whom you enjoyed a lovely relationship, promised you
her vehicle of whichever it may be when she passed away, which is a 91 Thunderbird.
When did she make this promise to you?
This was, she had an 88 Thunderbird, I think it was 88 or 89, which my other aunt had received, and at the time I just turned 16, and she promised me then the white Thunderbird, which went to my aunt who also has children and needed a vehicle. So she always promised me that she would leave me her car.
You must have had a hot grandmother. She liked Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
So she passed away recently. According to your complaint, the only signed will makes no mention of that bequest.
No. It was also done in '77.
Could I bring up something, Your Honor?
You, sir, are the executor of the estate.
Yes, according to the signed will, yes.
And is there another will, sir?
Yes. This is a will that we received from a attorney that said that from the discussion I had with my sister, Deborah, which is Wendy's mother, that he had told her that...
Just, you can't tell me all these things. This is all hearsay. You received another will.
Yes.
That is unsigned.
That's the will.
Okay, and this was executed in 1992.
Yes.
All right, so let me understand this. We have a 1977 will which makes no mention, that is signed.
Yes.
And makes no mention of this car bequest. Then you have a 1992 will, which according to the plaintiff does discuss the car.
Yes.
Let me just take a look at it. Mr. Tagliavore, were you satisfied that your mother had, in fact, in 1992, had a change of heart, despite the fact that you didn't sign this will?
Yes, I didn't know it. Yes.
Could you sit down, please? Just sit down. The answer is yes. Evidently there was some dispute that your mother had with somebody else, and she, in fact, changed her will.
Yes.
But did not sign it.
As far as I know.
As far as you know, didn't sign it.
Right.
Is there anything that you know about that I haven't said yet?
Yes.
Go ahead.
In the hospital when my grandmother was dying, my husband, my mother, my uncle Bill, and her other son, and my mother, the executor on the second will, she was telling us that her phone book, bank receipts, her will, stuff for her funeral, everything was in her briefcase. We found everything except for her will, which then in her phone book, in 2 different spots, it is noted, Opendahl, the one that drew up the second will, is her attorney has her will. That's how they found him. This is her phone book.
It says in that, attorney has will.
Has will.
Fine.
And I also have a letter from the attorney saying that he was the one that drew it up, and no, she never signed it, that it was her right to be able to take her copy with her, and it was up to her.
Ms. Cox, so then what I'm saying is accurate. Let's put
Yes.
this in order. We have a signed 1977 will, which you acknowledge does not make any bequest of this car to you. Were you
No.
born in 1977?
I was born in '76.
Okay, so you were a year old. She wouldn't have left you a car.
No.
Later, you both agree that your mother and your grandmother had the intention of changing her will to leave you the car, but she never fully executed the will, which means she did not have it signed and witnessed. That's according to you, madam, because you just told me that in her papers, in her book, it says attorney has the will. And if this is the will that you got from the attorney, it is unsigned, correct?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
So here we have the problem.
This is a copy of the will from 1977.
I'll take a look at it. Mr. Tagliavore,
That's where
listen
I got
to me.
the address.
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
I think you were very honest with me a moment ago. I assume that you love your mother and you know in your heart that she may have not been good at executing this 1992 will, but that was her intention, that your niece have this car.
My mother spoke to me in '96 in November.
Who are you?
I'm her daughter also. She called me in Kentucky, was calling me, and I brought up my will, she brought up her will. Nothing was ever mentioned. She said, I have 6 kids, if there should be anything left, be divided equally. Nothing was ever mentioned once. Wendy didn't know, none of us kids knew that this other will existed. Mom never mentioned to not a one of us.
Fine, but it does exist.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I didn't care if I lost the car or not. It was
Come on,
simple.
Wendy, come
you don't
on.
know. You do not know,
I know.
Joy.
You
no,
put
you
us
do not
through
know.
hell.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Wendy Cox says her grandmother promised she could have her Ford Thunderbird after she died. But Wendy's uncle, Joseph Tagliavore, claims his mother's will says all of her possessions are to be divided between him and his siblings.
How much property did your mother leave?
The automobile was it, basically.
If you went to sell, sir, a 1991 Thunderbird, how much do you think you could get for it?
5,000, maybe.
Maybe.
6, maybe. Depending on what kind of shape it was in.
Okay, well, what kind of shape is it in?
It's in very good shape.
Okay,
Low
so let's
mileage.
say, and there are 5 kids?
6.
6 kids. So let's make it easy for this old judge, because I'm not real good in math, as Bird can tell you. So let's say you can sell the car for $6,000. So everybody gets $1,000, right?
Right.
The laws in every jurisdiction require a will to be executed in a certain fashion. So we're talking here about a situation where the law, Ms. Cox, in this and practically every jurisdiction in this country requires that a will and any subsequent change of the will be signed and witnessed, correct? On the other hand, we're talking about whatever is morally right with regard to this car. I believe that you two people know that it was your mother's intention for her granddaughter to have this car, for whatever reasons. I'm sure she has a lot of other grandchildren, but that's what she intended, for this car to go to this grandchild.
Well,
We're not talking about a lot of money here, Mr. Tagliavore. We're talking about at most $6,000 or $1,000 per person who would tend to inherit the money. So maybe we can come up with some way of being fair to your mother's wishes and also being fair to you, consistent with this will, which is unsigned.
Your Honor, I also have a letter from that attorney.
So what? I don't need the attorney. They don't dispute that. Ms. Cox, relax.
Okay, but...
Relax. They don't dispute
No,
that this...
I was just wondering if that would be... I know it's not signed. I'm just wondering if he
No,
can't
I
be a
don't read
witness,
letters
can
from
he?
attorneys. If you want a witness here, you have to have a witness here. What I started to say to you is perhaps we can come up with something that is fair, reasonably fair to each side. Would it be fair for Miss Cox to have use of this car until she decides to sell it, and when she decides to sell it, the proceeds of the sale of that car distributed among the 6 of you? So that in some way, the last wishes of your mother would be honored. Would that be reasonable?
I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Well, I'm telling you, sir.
You don't understand the whole story, I don't believe.
Well, I'll listen to the whole story.
This started years ago when my mother first told me. She told me, you make sure that you take care of your brother James, which is on that will.
In 1977.
Long before then. But if anything happened to her, she said, you make sure that he gets his share of whatever is left because he will not take care of it himself. The money would mean a lot to him. It doesn't mean anything to me. My sister, nobody else in the family, you know, $1,000, like you say, is not much money.
So what's James's problem?
He's like one step from homeless, pretty much.
Is there something physically wrong with him, or does he have an alcohol or a drug problem?
No, he's partially disabled. He lives on state aid and stuff like that.
So he has money from Social Security disability.
Right. Which is not much.
I understand that.
$1,000 to him is a lot of money. And this is a promise I made to my mother. And then when this thing all started, as far as I was concerned, I thought my sister was supposed to be executor of this will, and this was all taken care of. She comes after my mother passes away. All the children come to my house. They say, we want you to take care of this. I told Mom in 1995 I wanted to be taken off as executor of the will. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. This was all news to me. So I agreed to do it. Then we started searching and finding stuff. Now this has turned into a total nightmare, and I'm the bad guy when the only thing I say there that is legally binding is that I have to do what the signed will says to do. Now, this is all the argument. This is all the bull that I have got from my family.
Sure, because
for doing what I was told to do by the law and asked to do by my siblings.
Well, you're right, Mr. Taglavor. You, unfortunately, are placed in that responsibility because it's not just you, but you have 5 siblings that you have to deal with, too.
Right, and my sister Paula says there's another will that leaves her the car, an orthographic will that she cannot find witnesses to. There's wills floating all over this place, but
listen,
none of them are signed.
There are a lot of wills, but no property.
Right.
You know, a lot of wills, but one old
and there's
Thunderbird.
nothing but a car.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I did not want to sue him.
Sure you did, Wendy.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
You don't know me, Joy. You do not know me. This was the man I thought was my grandfather,
I've seen
okay?
your action.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Wendy Cox is suing her uncle, Joseph Tagliavor, over her grandmother's will.
So I would assume that you cannot speak for your whole family.
Oh, no,
absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. What do you want to say?
It's funny that Mother never said anything to anybody, not even to Wendy or Debbie. Nothing was said till after the funeral. I mean, she didn't say anything.
Just a second. Who didn't say anything?
Wendy didn't say nothing. Debbie didn't say nothing. Mom never said nothing.
Listen
that she
to
wanted
me,
Wendy to have the car.
Listen to me, madam.
And I talked to her.
Listen to me.
Okay. I guess it doesn't matter. Whatever you want.
It doesn't. Let me tell you why it doesn't matter.
It upsets me.
Let me tell you why it doesn't matter. Very often when somebody is ill, or even before they're ill, when they are distributing their property by way of a will, and they don't want to create bad feeling while they're alive. They don't want one child to be angry with them, or another child or a grandchild to be angry with them. They won't discuss what they're leaving in their will because they figure, when I'm dead, it don't make any difference. So they will not tell their children. Do you have children? Mm-hmm. You have children. Would you have felt badly when you spoke to your mother if your mother said to you, I'm leaving Wendy my only possession, my car? You would have been annoyed with your mother.
I wouldn't.
Sure you would have. And your kids and your children would have been annoyed. Why is Grandma just leaving? Is she the favorite? Why is Grandma just leaving Wendy the car and I don't get anything? Does that sound possible to you?
Well, if it's yes, possible. But if it's her wishes, Mom wasn't shy.
You don't, it's not a question of being shy. No. It's a question of not having your kids or your grandchildren annoyed with you while you're here to experience the feeling. Mm-hmm. Once you're gone, you're gone. Miss Cox, you understand you have a problem.
Yeah.
And your problem is that even under the common law, which forms the basis of every law of every jurisdiction, a last will and testament was required to have some sort of a writing, at least signed by the, we call him the testator or the testatrix. That means the deceased. The only signed will that exists here that I see is one that was made in 1977. It doesn't make any mention of a car to you. Your uncle is not a bad guy. If he did anything else with this car, but do what it says to do in the original will, which is dispose of all my property equally among my children, he could be sued by the other siblings for a violation of his duties as executor of the will.
Thank you.
Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Well, that's unreasonable. That's unreasonable. I can't permit that to happen. My sense is he would like to do the right thing. But unless all of the siblings together say, you can turn the car over to Wendy because that's what Mom wanted, he can't do that. Do you understand? What I think is too bad is that if all the siblings understand that this was Mom's request, and all we're talking about really is $1,000 that you were concerned about for James, because that would mean a lot to him. Well, maybe Wendy here would say, I'll give James $1,000, give me the car.
My mother, the executor on the second will, which my uncle is not even in.
There's no second will.
No, but
Wendy,
I know. Okay,
there's
I'm
no
just saying.
second will.
All right, but my mom did agree to do that. My mom was willing to give my Uncle James $1,000 to make sure he was taken care of, because she loves her brother. It has nothing to do with the Thunderbird.
This is a very good lesson
For
to everybody.
$1,000, this is ridiculous.
It's a very good lesson to everybody. None of us feel that tomorrow is our last day, so we all tend to put off taking care of business, which keeps things orderly and organized in our lives and prevents this kind of thing happening to a family. Usually when these kinds of things happen within a family, when somebody dies, you're talking about a lot of money. It's absolutely outrageous to me that this is doing this to a family when you're talking about a car, which is the only asset that your mother had. So people who don't take care of their business by keeping abreast of what property they have and how they want to dispose of it and making clear dispositions of that property before they die are not doing their families a favor.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Morally, Wendy, I believe that you are correct that your grandmother wanted you to have this car. Legally, you cannot establish that to me. Moreover, I honestly believe, after speaking to your uncle, that if he had his druthers, he would give you this car. If it was a question of, listen, either the car is mine or it's Wendy's, he would say, you can have the car. He is not in that position. He stands in what we call a fiduciary relationship to his other siblings. He represents them. Unless there is a unity of spirit in that, among those 6 siblings, unless all of them say, give Wendy the car, despite the fact that that's not what your signed will says, he can be sued by them, and it ends up costing him $5,000 or $6,000, probably more with attorney's fees, because he'd have to hire an attorney to defend himself, and you would maybe get the car. So don't blame him. It's not his fault. It's really, unfortunately, your grandmother's fault, because she did not take care of business when she could have in 1992 by signing this will and having a fully executed copy. So this lawsuit is dismissed. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. And out the back door to your right, please.
On the next Judge Judy.
I didn't care if I lost the car or not. It was
Come on,
simple.
Wendy, come
you don't
on.
know. You do not know,
I know.
Joy.
You
no,
put
you
us
do not
through
know.
hell.
সহযোগিতা করতে পারেন, কীভাবে এটা করুন, কী কিরকম লাগবে, এই ভিডিওতে শেয়ার করবো, অবশ্যই ভিডিওটা পুরো দেখতে পারবো না।